The world of zombies, beginning with a golden spell at maximum level. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Lirgo Village. After breakfast, several people set out on their way. Your map actually goes down the mountain? Why don't you go around from the bottom and go from here? Lin Kaiyun held the map in his hand and looked at the route on it. He was very surprised. Looking at the destination, it was close to the deep mountains, but it had to pass through a village at the foot of the mountain. This route was obviously abnormal. Dai Qingfang shook his head after hearing Lin Kaiyun's question and said, I don't know either. I am also confused, but there may be few roads in the mountains. The easy way may need to pass through that village. It's possible. Lin Kaiyun nodded and returned the map to Dai Qingfang. He stopped thinking about this problem. After all, they are now on a small road, although it is very muddy. Following the route marked on the map, the three people moved forward all the way. They did not encounter too many twists and turns along the way. There were a few blind beasts and some monsters that became spirits, which were also easily dealt with by Lin Kaiyun. Luoan, who was exploring the way ahead, turned around, shook his hands and shouted to Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfang, Boss Dai, Master Lin, do you think there is a village ahead? Can we take a break? Seeing this, Lin Kaiyun took a few quick steps, stepped on the top of the mountain, and looked down. Sure enough, there was a small mountain village built in the ravine. Judging from the size of the houses, there seemed to be only a few dozen families. There were also some wheat fields cultivated on the soft land on the slope. The wheat ears in them were ripe and floating in the wind. Lin Kaiyun nodded, looked at the muddy path under his feet, which extended all the way to the village, and said, looking at the route, it should be the village below. The road under his feet also passes through the village. After that, Lin Kaiyun walked down along the route directly. Dai Qingfang and Luoan did not hesitate and followed him directly. At the head of the village, several villagers were sitting on a large rock and chatting after finishing their work. One of them, an old man holding a dry pipe, blew out smoke rings and said to someone, Zuan, what kind of wine are you drinking? Why does it smell so strong? The young man named Zuan touched his red and hot face, and said with a clanking tongue, Uncle, I had some good food at noon, so I drank some white wine brewed at Kangzi's house. A young man wearing a gray patched shirt next to Zuan asked Zuan with a teasing look on his face, Zuan, is your father going to cut down trees or not? He has been talking about making a chair for each of us for half a month. I wonder if your father was drunk like you at that time. When Zuan heard that this person was mocking him, he quickly pointed to a withered willow tree outside the village entrance and said, cut it down, why not? Our family has been renovating recently, and we are very busy at the house. It will be finished this afternoon, and we can also build a wooden door. A few villagers who were chatting followed the direction of Zuan's finger and saw Lin Kaiyun and the other two. The old man who was smoking a cigarette lowered the pipe in his hand to his waist and looked at Lin Kaiyun and the other two in confusion, muttering, are there strangers? Since the surrounding herbs were dug out, no outsiders have come here for a long time. Zuan stood up unsteadily and asked in a daze, Uncle, what are these people doing here? How should I know? At the same time, Lin Kaiyun and the other two also saw the villagers chatting at the entrance of the village. However, Lin Kaiyun's attention at this time was all on a withered willow tree next to him. This willow tree was very thick and looked old, but it was withered at this time. There was no trace of green on the branches above. They were old and drooped down without a trace of green. Lin Kaiyun felt that there was a trace of yin energy on the willow tree, but it was not a tree demon, and he did not find anything wrong. This willow tree was not a demon. Dai Qingfang saw Lin Kaiyun staring at the withered willow tree and asked in confusion, Brother Lin, what's wrong with you? Nothing, let's go in. Lin Kaiyun shook his head and stopped staring at the willow tree. Lin Kaiyun walked to the village head, bowed to the smoking old man, and asked respectfully, Old man, may I ask where is this place? What is the name of our village? Before the smoking old man could respond, Zuan on the side pointed at Lin Kaiyun very rudely and asked loudly, what are you doing? Lin Kaiyun did not intend to pay attention to this drunk man, and Luoan on the side glared at him, ready to curse. At this time, the smoking old man came out to smooth things over. Zuan, guests are welcome. What's your attitude? The smoking old man scolded Zuan, then got down from the rock, looked at Lin Kaiyun, and said, "Young men, this place is called Littergao Village. I wonder if you are here to look for someone, or do you have something to do?" Lin Kaiyun replied, "We are just passing by and want to go up the mountain along this road. Then we are a little tired and want to rest here for a while." The smoking old man nodded, pointed in the direction of the mountain and said, "That's right, but this road can no longer go up the mountain. It is blocked by fallen trees in front." Lin Kaiyun smiled indifferently. "It's okay, we have a way to get through." At this time, Luoan on the side couldn't help it. He turned his head and looked around. This village really didn't look like there was a restaurant. Then he asked, "Old man, is there a place to eat in the village? We are starving and want to eat. But don't worry, we pay." Next to him, drunk Ziwen was unfriendly to Lin Kaiyun and the others before, but after hearing about the money, he hurriedly said, Yes, we can have a meal at home. My mother cooks delicious food." Lin Kaiyun glanced at the drunk Ziwen. He would not bother with a drunkard. Anyway, it was the same to rest and eat at anyone's house, so he nodded and agreed. Seeing that Lin Kaiyun agreed, Luoan became excited, and hurriedly put his arm around Ziwen's shoulders, and said hurriedly, "Brother, let's go quickly, you don't know. I'm starving to death." Ziwen treated Lin Kaiyun and the other two like guests at this time, and he became polite in his words. Let's go. We still have meat stored at home. As long as you give me money, I will let my mother cook it for you." Soon, Lin Kaiyun and the other two followed Ziwen to his home, a 3-room house made of wood and grass, with a neat courtyard, and some wooden tables, chairs and benches placed in the yard, without paint on them, all newly made. A middle-aged man who looked like Ziwen was sawing the wood under his feet. Ziwen quickly ran to the yard and shouted happily, "Dad, guests are coming. Where's Mom? Ask her to get the meat out and prepare some good food." Chapter 202 You should leave now. The old man holding the saw wiped the sweat from his forehead, turned around with the saw, frowned when he saw Ziwen, and started to curse. "Where have you been fooling around again? These people are from outside the village? Why do you bring all kinds of people home?" Ziwen heard his father scolding him. Without any resistance, he trotted over, gestured with his hands to show money, and said excitedly, "No, Dad, these people are passing by the village and are going to the mountains. Now they want to eat something and rest for a while, and they are paying." "Really? Ziwen, I didn't expect you to do such a good thing." When Ziwen's father heard that they would be paid, he showed the same smile as Ziwen, then grinned at Lin Kaiyun and greeted, "Hey guys, my name is Li Liaoshuan. Our house is newly renovated. You can see I'm making furniture, so it is definitely the most suitable place for you to rest in the whole village. Besides, my mother is also one of the best cooks in the whole village. Don't worry. It's definitely worth it." When Lin Kaiyun heard this, he knew what Li Liaoshuan meant and gave Luoan a look. Luoan naturally saw Lin Kaiyun's look, but didn't understand what it meant. He moved closer to Lin Kaiyun and asked quietly, "What's wrong with Master Lin? You can tell me if I have anything to do." Dai Qingfeng, who was standing by, couldn't help it and interrupted to remind him, "Luoan, Brother Lin meant for you to pay this family first." Oh. You should have said it earlier. I thought there was some deeper meaning," Luoan explained awkwardly, then took out $2 from his pocket and threw them to Li Liaoshuan very openly. Of course, this was not Luoan's own money, but Dai Qingfeng's money. "Dear guests, please wait a moment. I will ask my mother to prepare food for you right away." After receiving the big money, Li Liaoshuan held it carefully in his hands, his eyes shining. He politely said a few words to Lin Kaiyun and the other two, then ran into the house and shouted, "Dear mother, stop painting, hurry up and clean up and cook, there are distinguished guests coming." Then two people were heard muttering. It was obvious that they were talking about the money given by Lin Kaiyun and the other two. Ziwen opened the door of the side room very enthusiastically and invited Lin Kaiyun and the other two, "3 guests, don't sit in the yard in the hot sun, come on, come in." The side room was very empty. There was no object except a newly made table. Ziwen seemed to see through the thoughts of several people and explained, "Dear guests, although this room is relatively simple, it is very clean." Lin Kaiyun nodded, indicating that he didn't mind. Then he saw another door on the wall and asked, "It's okay, it's good, at least the space is big. By the way, are there beds inside?" Ziwen nodded and said like a waiter, Yes, the guests can rest inside after eating, even if they stay here at night." In short, no matter what, this family, including the drunk Ziwen, were very polite and respectful, so Lin Kaiyun was generally satisfied. Money can make the devil work. Even devils can be convinced by money, let alone people. After receiving the ocean, Li Liuxuan and his wife put down the things at hand and prepared meals for Lin Kaiyun and the other two with all their heart. Soon, the hot meals were served. It was indeed as Zhuang said, there was meat, but only a few slices of meat. And it looked very delicate, not like pork. However, Lin Kaiyun and the other three had been walking for a day, and the wild rabbits and pheasants they had eaten in the morning had long been digested. At this time, they were also very hungry, and they didn't care what kind of meat it was, and they ate it directly. There were not many meat dishes, most of which were wild vegetables from the mountains and small green vegetables grown at home. These dishes could not be said to be delicious, but they were definitely not bad. Lin Kaiyun and the other two were not people who cared about their reputation. At this time, they ate heartily and ate all the dishes on the table like a whirlwind. After eating, Lin Kaiyun and the other two did not rush to leave immediately, but rested on the spot. Li Liuxuan's family knew that Lin Kaiyun and the others were resting, so they did what they had to do and were busy with the things at hand, and did not come to disturb them frequently. Zhuang sat on a wooden bench in the yard, helping Li Liuxuan hold down a wooden stick that was more than 2 meters long, and asked, "Dad, are you going to cut down the old dead willow tree at the entrance of the village? Uncle asked me today. He said that you promised at the beginning that you would cut down the willow tree to make a chair for them, but you changed your mind and deliberately delayed it." Li Liuxuan replied while sawing wood, "Cut it down. There is not much wood left at home. After we finish sawing this one, we will go and cut down the tree." Zhuang said, "Okay, then I'll tell Uncle later, so he won't gossip in the village all the time." Half an hour later, Lin Kaiyun heard no sound in the yard. Presumably, Li Liuxuan had taken Zhuang to cut down the tree. At this time, Dai Qingfang found a blanket from somewhere, handed it to Lin Kaiyun and said, "Brother Lin, take a nap. We have been walking all day, okay, let's rest for a while, and then continue our journey after we wake up." Lin Kaiyun stretched, took the blanket, leaned on the bed and closed his eyes. After an unknown amount of time, the door of the side room where Lin Kaiyun and the other two were resting was suddenly slammed open. Lin Kaiyun and the other two were awakened instantly, and Luo clenched his sword even more tightly. After seeing that it was Zhuang who broke in, he asked in confusion, "Why are you rushing in so quickly?" "What do you mean?" Zhuang panted and said nervously, "Dear guests, I'm really sorry. My father asked me to tell you that I can't treat you to dinner. You'd better leave quickly." After hearing this, Lin Kaiyun frowned. Then he stared at Zhuang's eyes and found that Zhuang was not lying. So, Lin Kaiyun stood up and walked in front of Zhuang and asked, "Did something happen? Is it related to the willow tree? If so, maybe we can help." Although Zhuang's family became very polite because they received money, they did their best to entertain them, and when there was a problem, they kindly reminded them to leave. When Zhuang heard Lin Kaiyun mention the willow tree, he took a step back in fear, with a terrified expression on his face. He asked in confusion, "How did you know?" Sure enough, seeing Zhuang's look, Lin Kaiyun knew that he guessed right. When he just entered the village, he felt a presence of yin energy in the willow tree. Then Lin Kaiyun put his hands behind his back and took 2 steps on the spot, and said to Zhuang, "Take us to see." Zhuang was stunned for a moment, then pushed open the door and led the way. "Okay, I'll take you there now." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 There must be something strange. Along the way, Zhuang told Lin Kaiyun what happened. It turned out that after Li Liuxuan and Zhuang saw the wood in the yard, they took their equipment and went to the village to cut down the old willow tree. When they arrived at the old willow tree, Zhuang first used a saw, but because the old willow tree was too thick, the saw did not work very well. Later, Li Liuxuan took the axe and started to chop. As a result, after just 2 axe cuts, they heard a strange sound coming from the tree. Then Li Liuxuan and Zhuang saw that there was a realistic human face on the branch of the old willow tree that had withered and died, which scared them. Then Li Liuxuan hurried to the village chief's house and told him what happened. Of course, the village chief would not believe such nonsense, and then took people to the old willow tree to take a look. As a result, they found that the old willow tree that had withered was bleeding. Human face? Blood? After listening to Zhuang's story, Lin Kaiyun frowned. He had noticed that the old willow tree was definitely not a monster, and he was very sure of that. But what was Zhuang describing? Seeing Lin Kaiyun's sad face, Zhuang thought that he didn't believe what he said, so he quickly explained, Mr. Lin, you have to believe me, what I said is true, and you will understand when you see it when you get there. Lin Kaiyun just nodded without responding, and then quickened his pace and walked towards the village. This little village has only dozens of households and is not big. Soon, Lin Kaiyun came to the village and saw the old willow tree. Sure enough, just as Zhuang said, there was an obvious axe mark under the old willow tree, and blood continued to flow from the mark. However, there was a new situation on the willow tree. A person was hanging on the dead branch of the old willow tree. His face was purple and red, and his tongue was exposed, as if he had hanged himself. At the same time, everyone in the village was here, looking at the old willow tree in horror. Lin Kaiyun wanted to observe the old willow tree closely, so he walked to the crowd and said, "Make way, let me go over and take a look." Is this the stranger the village chief was talking about? It's been a long time since anyone from outside the village came here. What on earth are they doing here? This old willow tree in our village has been here for decades and there has never been any problem. Why is it haunted today when they come here? Yes, could it be their fault? It looks like it. Oh, stop talking, they are coming. The villagers surrounding the old willow tree consciously made way for Lin Kaiyun and others, but still pointed at them. Lin Kaiyun did not have any special reaction to these discussions, but Luoan, who was following behind Lin Kaiyun, was very unhappy at this time. He carried the big knife on his shoulder like a threat, and glared at the villagers who were gossiping. Seeing Luoan's ferocious appearance, the villagers were so scared that they all took 2 steps back, keeping a safe distance and chatting in a low voice. Stop talking, these people are so fierce, don't you see they are holding knives in their hands? It must be related to them. I think so too. Let's hear what the village chief says. The village chief of Lirgo village was the old man who smoked when Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 came to the village. The old man held the pipe in his hand and kept knocking it, looking at the body hanging on the willow tree with great concern. After seeing Zhuang, Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 walk in, the village chief said unhappily, "Zhuang, what's wrong with you? Aren't you still drunk? Didn't I tell you? These people are just passing by. Whether it's haunted or man-made, don't involve outsiders." After scolding, the village chief turned his head, smiled at Lin Kaiyun, and said apologetically, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry, old man. I don't mean to chase you away, but something happened in our village. You saw it, it's very strange, so you'd better leave quickly." Lin Kaiyun knew that the village chief was kind-hearted and was more willing to help them solve this problem, but what he said verbally was still very obscure. "Village chief, I appreciate your kindness. It is because this tree is weird that we came here. Maybe we can help." Seeing that Lin Kaiyun was unwilling to leave, the village chief stopped persuading him. He put his hands behind his back, looked at the corpse on the old willow tree, and slowly spoke, "Your legs are on your own bodies. Since you don't want to leave, there's no point in my persuasion. But there's no need to make a fuss." The man hanged above was called Huzi, and he was also a famous drunkard in our village. He might have drunk too much, and the garlic under his feet got entangled in the branches. As a result, he struggled and the branches became tighter and strangled him to death. After saying that, the village chief shouted to Li Liaoshuan and Zhuang on the side, "This matter was caused by you 2, father and son. Now you 2 take an axe and chop down this old willow tree, and then burn it." After hearing the words of the village chief, Zhuang shuddered with fear and shook his head reluctantly. "Ah, uncle, this tree is haunted. Can you not let us go?" Zhuang's father Li Liaoshuan didn't dare to do so, and immediately made a suggestion, "Village chief, why don't we just burn it?" Seeing that Li Liaoshuan and Zhuang were unwilling to go, the village chief directly scolded with a cold face, "No, this old willow tree is withered and dried up, and the fire must be very strong when it burns. It is easy to blow the fire into the village if it is lit here." But the village chief became very impatient and pointed at Li Liaoshuan's nose and scolded, "But what buts? There are so many of us here watching, what are you afraid of?" Seeing that the village chief was angry, and that there were indeed so many people here as the village chief said, even if there was a ghost, they would not dare to come out. After figuring this out, Li Liaoshuan and Zhuang plucked up their courage, each holding an axe, walked to the bottom of the old willow tree, and swung the axe to chop it. Cutting the tree and then burning it is a better way to deal with it, so Lin Kaiyun did not intervene, and just hugged his shoulders and watched from the side. Dai Qingfang saw the scene and asked Lin Kaiyun curiously, "Brother Lin, is this dead tree really haunted?" "It's hard to say, but there is definitely something strange about this tree." Lin Kaiyun shook his head. He couldn't tell whether this old willow tree was infested by ghosts or for some other reason. Maybe because of fear, or maybe because the villagers were here to give themselves courage. Li Liuxuan and Ziwan, the father and son, didn't know where they got the strength from. And they chopped very fast. For a while, wood chips flew everywhere, and soon the tree roots were cut in half. Chapter 204. Right under my nose. Large movements and a lot of sweating can stimulate human hormones. Li Liuxuan and Ziwan, father and son, lost all fear after chopping halfway. They even took off their shirts, rubbed a handful of oil on their hands to increase friction, and swung the axe to chop harder. Originally, the old willow tree, which had been chopped halfway, became shaky, and at this time a gust of wind happened to blow over. The old willow tree could no longer support itself and fell down in the direction of the wind. Creak, bang. The old willow tree with a diameter of 1 meter made a huge muffled sound at the moment of falling, splashing a cloud of smoke and dust, and the corpse hanging on it was also driven to roll to the side. This scene made the villagers who were originally afraid even more frightened, including Li Liuxuan and Ziwan, father and son, who threw down their axes and turned around and ran away. It really felt like they were afraid of the grass and trees. Seeing that Li Liuxuan and his son and the villagers were very frightened, the village chief was also a little scared. But he was the head of the village after all, and all these people were looking at him. He then held the pipe in his hand, bravely took a few steps forward, shook the ashes from his face with both hands, and stared closely at the fallen old willow tree. The village chief was relieved to see that everything was normal and there was nothing strange. He turned around, held his pipe in his hand, pointed at the villagers who had run far away, and scolded them angrily. "Why are you running? Isn't it normal to have dust when a tree falls? Besides, you came forward and took a look. There is no blood. It was probably not blood before, but just the remaining sap of the tree. It was just a coincidence, nothing." After hearing what the village chief said, Ziwan came to the village chief, rubbed his eyes with his hands, stared at the old willow tree carefully, and then said in surprise, "It's true. It's really okay, Dad, come and see, it's a normal tree." Seeing that the usually timid Ziwan said this, the villagers at the scene also came over with confidence, and they gathered in twos and threes to discuss. "It's true, there is no blood, and there is no human face. The village chief is right, there is no ghost. It seems that Huzi really drank too much and entangled himself to death." As the village chief analyzed, it seems to be true. After all, this old willow tree has been at the entrance of the village for decades. If it was really haunted, it would have been haunted long ago. The village chief put his pipe on his waist, walked in front of all the villagers with his hands behind his back, and patiently persuaded these frightened villagers. "I told you a long time ago, don't be suspicious of things that don't exist all day long. Besides, even if there are really unclean things, there are so many of us and we are so popular, they should be afraid of us." Lin Kaiyun and the other two who were watching the changes on the side were also a little strange. According to reason, judging from Ziwan's description alone, the old willow tree should be fine. Dai Qingfang also felt that there should be no ghosts, and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Brother Lin, it seems that you are worrying too much. This tree is very normal, and there is no strange scene. Maybe what happened before was an accident, maybe. After all, anything can happen in this world." Lin Kaiyun nodded. The old willow tree was also cut down, and there was nothing strange about it. At the same time, he did not find anything abnormal. Luoan, who was standing beside Lin Kaiyun, shrugged indifferently and said, "If we had known earlier, we wouldn't have to come here. It would be so nice to sleep in the room." Lin Kaiyun glanced at Luoan, then made a decision and said, "Okay, let you sleep enough tonight. Anyway, it's late now, so we won't rush today." After the delay, it was getting dark soon. Although Lin Kaiyun was not worried about the danger if he continued to rush into the mountains, he didn't want to sleep on the cold ground again. Luoan didn't care if there were people around, and shouted to Li Liuxuan, "Hey, Li Liuxuan, we won't leave tonight. Can we continue to live in your house?" Yes, that's great." After hearing Luoan's words, Li Liuxuan was immediately delighted and laughed. He knew the generosity of Lin Kaiyun and his friends. Since they were going to live in their house, they would definitely not miss out on his benefits. When Li Liuxuan thought of this, he felt that he was so lucky that he could make a lot of money in this village in the mountains. Then he pushed Zhuang and said, "Why are you still standing here like an idiot? Take the 3 guests back and tell your mother to prepare dinner." Okay. Zhuang staggered for a moment after being pushed, but then he reacted quickly, ran to Lin Kaiyun, respectfully extended his hand and invited, "3 guests, let's go back. You take a rest, dinner will be ready." Lin Kaiyun nodded, then smiled at the village chief, said hello, got up and followed Zhuang home. Looking at the backs of Lin Kaiyun and his companions, many villagers showed envious expressions, and some people who had a good relationship with Li Liuxuan joked, "Okay, Liuxuan, you are really lucky. You can make money by cooking a few meals and providing a house." Li Liuxuan, did they give you a few copper coins? Li Liuxuan shook his head and said, "No, I didn't hit any big luck. My child's mother just simply cooked some meals, and these 3 just gave a little symbolically. Don't show your wealth to others." Li Liuxuan, who has lived in the village since he was a child, understands this principle even more. If other people really know that these 3 guests gave him $2, not to mention envy, jealousy and hatred, there will definitely be many people who will borrow money from him for various reasons. However, they are all people in Lingao village. Everyone knows each other. When they saw Li Liuxuan's excitement before, they knew that Lin Kaiyun's 3 guests must have given him a lot of benefits. Of course, Li Liuxuan refused to admit it, and they had no choice. Some people with small minds were jealous when they saw that Li Liuxuan could make money without doing anything. They asked in a sarcastic tone, "Liuxuan, the old willow tree has been cut down. You promised to give us a chair for each household. Is it still true?" After hearing this, Li Liuxuan patted his chest and said very affirmatively, "I will definitely do it. When have I ever broken my promise? Now help me carry the old willow tree back, and tomorrow I will start making chairs first." After Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 returned to Zhuang's home, they went straight into the house to rest. After half an hour, they heard the sound of villagers carrying the tree into the yard. Lin Kaiyun looked at the window. The old willow tree happened to be under his nose. As long as nothing happened after Li Liuxuan sawed it open, it meant that what happened to the old willow tree before was indeed just an accident. Chapter 205 Help. Murder. In the yard, the noisy voices soon quieted down. The villagers were simple and honest. They just helped to transport the trees. They did not want to disturb Lin Kaiyun because of his generosity. After that, Zhuang's mother prepared the meal and politely sent it to Lin Kaiyun in his room. The meal was no different from the lunch. It was still a few fixed vegetables and a few pieces of meat. But this was understandable. It was normal for such a small mountain village to have few kinds of food. After dinner, Lin Kaiyun and King Fang studied the map, while Luo uncovered himself with a quilt and fell asleep. Then the night fell. There was no electricity or lights in the small mountain village. After chatting for a while by candlelight, several people rested. At night, the moon was high, and the whole Lingao village was quiet and peaceful. At the head of the village, a figure, carrying a not too bright candle lantern, walked towards the village. This person was called Fenghou. Because there were 3 dark spots between his eyebrows when he was born, like a Sichuan character, he took a simple and direct name. Fenghou was also a villager of Lingao village. Half a month ago, he left the village and went to a distant town to buy some lamp oil and some necessities that were not available in the village. Because the journey was long and he was just an ordinary person, unlike Lin Kaiyun and the others, he did not walk very fast. It took him half a month to get back. He was eager to go home and traveled all night without finding a place to rest. At this time, Fenghou had already stepped into the village entrance. Thinking that he would be able to go home and see his wife soon, he felt happy in his heart. Even the dark spots between his eyebrows were no longer sad. After walking to the side of the old willow tree, Fenghou suddenly found that the old willow tree had been cut down, leaving only a tree root, and there was a faint light under the tree root. He muttered in confusion, "Hey, why was this tree cut down? And why is there a faint light under it? Is there a treasure?" In the night, coupled with the fact that the lantern in Fenghou's hand was not bright, the green and glittering faint light was particularly obvious, which immediately attracted his attention. Fenghou was very brave to travel at night, and he was very familiar with the village, so he walked to the roots of the tree with a lantern in his hand without hesitation. He stretched out the lantern and shone it carefully under the roots of the tree. Suddenly, he jumped with surprise and said to himself with a happy face, "Oh my God, there is a treasure. I was right to travel at night. This light comes from this oil and cannot be seen during the day." However, after being happy, Feng Sanchuan soon touched his chin and looked worried. He circled around the roots of the tree and muttered, "I don't have any tools or shovels. What should I do? I can't dig." After walking around for a while, Feng Dechuan gritted his teeth and made a decision to dig with his own hands. Feng Dechuan put the lantern aside, rolled up his sleeves, squatted down and started digging. "This is an opportunity given to me by God. I can't let others find it." The soil under the roots of the tree was soft before, but during the day, many people gathered around the old willow tree and stepped on it, causing the soil to become hard. Feng Dechuan spent a lot of effort, but didn't dig out much soil. He was so tired that he sat on the ground, patted the roots of the tree angrily, and cursed, "Why are there so many footprints? Who in the village is so bored?" They actually walked around this old willow tree, cursing, but Feng Dechuan would not give up the treasure. He set his eyes on the lantern beside him, and then reached out and broke the handle of the lantern. Feng Dechuan also had a handy thing, so he didn't dare to delay and bent down to dig. With the thing, a hole was soon dug out of the soil under the roots of the tree. Just when Feng Dechuan was ready to make persistent efforts and dig out the treasure in one go, suddenly, the lantern handle stopped digging, as if it was caught by something. After encountering this situation, Feng Dechuan did not panic, but subconsciously thought that he had dug up a treasure. He threw down the lantern handle with excitement and directly operated with both hands, saying, "What is that? Did I dig up a treasure? Ha ha ha, I'm going to be rich, and I don't have to live in this remote mountain valley anymore." Extreme joy leads to sorrow, which is exactly what happened to Feng Dechuan at this time. Just when he was full of joy and thought that he had finally dug up a treasure, a dry arm with green fluorescence pushed out of the soil and directly grabbed Feng Dechuan's arm. Feng Dechuan was terrified at this time. He was full of joy and thought it was a treasure, but it turned out to be a fluorescent hand, and this hand also grabbed him. Feng Dechuan stepped on this oil and struggled hard, but the arm did not move at all, holding his wrist tightly. There was no way. He could only shout for help, hoping that someone would come to help him. "Ah, what ghost is it? Help me." However, at this moment, there was a sound of kaba kaba from under the tree roots, which made people feel very uncomfortable. I saw that the roots of the old willow tree had cracks, and the dry branches kept falling. Bang! A rapid sound rang out, and the arm holding Feng Dechuan's arm suddenly exerted force. A monster with white hair drilled half of its body out of the soil, revealing a face full of minced meat. The most terrifying thing was the pair of shocking red eyes and the big mouth full of sharp teeth like a beast. "Monster, monster!" Feng Dechuan's eyes widened in fear. "AWW!" The horrible monster roared, tore Feng Dechuan's arm with its claws, and held it in its mouth and gnawed it. Feng Dechuan almost fainted from the pain, but his instinct for survival made him subconsciously shout for help. "Ah, help, help! There's a monster, help me!" However, his shouting angered the white-haired monster, and its entire body jumped out of the soil under the tree roots and pounced on Feng Dechuan. Suddenly, pieces of flesh flew everywhere, and blood flowed all over the ground along the tree roots. At this moment, the door of the house closest to the village was pushed open from the inside, and a middle-aged man walked out in a daze with a candle. He saw the dark shadow at the root of the tree and shouted, "Who is it?" Yelling and screaming in the middle of the night, the white-haired monster spat out the bones in its mouth after hearing someone coming, and jumped away on all fours in the darkness. "Strange, is it a wild beast? There aren't any large wild beasts near our village," the middle-aged man muttered in confusion when he saw this scene. Then walked to the root of the tree with a candle and took a look. After seeing the blood and body parts, he was so scared that he couldn't hold the candle steadily and collapsed to the ground. "Help! Someone is killing people." Chapter 206. What is this? Lin Kaiyun was sleeping soundly in the room and had a wonderful dream. Suddenly, Lin Kaiyun sat up and stared at the outside through the window. Lin Kaiyun has always had a habit of staying alert whenever he sleeps outside. Lin Kaiyun, who was sleeping just now, heard a voice of shouting faintly. After waking up, he probed his consciousness out. "Well, is there a ghost?" Lin Kaiyun frowned and felt a very faint ghost smell outside. Although the traces were very faint, Lin Kaiyun was quite confident that he would not make a mistake. He did not delay in putting on his clothes, and did not wake up Nai King Fang and Luoden. He pushed the door and went out alone. At the same time, the village chief had already led people to the village head, and saw Feng Daichuan's body by candlelight and moonlight. It was seen that Feng Daichuan's body had been eaten up by now, leaving only the dry arm thrown aside, and the blood dyed the soil underground red. They were all born and raised in Lirgao village, simple farmers. When had they ever seen such a terrifying scene? In Lirgao village, the young man holding a lantern next to the village chief was the village chief's son, Wu Danian. He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat and asked his father, the village chief, fearfully, "Dad, is this Uncle Feng?" After all, the village chief was over 50 years old and much more stable. In addition, the middle-aged man holding the candle told him that he saw a wild beast running away, so he was not too scared. The village chief snatched the lantern from his son Wu Danian's hand, took 2 steps, and shone the body of Feng Daichuan. It was indeed like being eaten by a wild beast. The village chief shook his head and sighed. It was Feng Daichuan. He went to purchase items more than 10 days ago. How could he come back so late at night? Alice, it's really pitiful. He must have encountered a wild beast. Little did they know that at this moment, a terrifying figure in the dark was quietly watching them. AWW. A low roar like a wild beast sounded behind the village chief and his son. The sound seemed to be right next to their ears and sounded extremely real. The village chief reacted quickly, pushed his son Wu Danian, and shouted, "Run, that beast, it's not far away." Then, the village chief picked up a shovel from the ground. When he heard the shouting before, he took the shovel to check and use it for self-defense. At this time, he thought it was the work of a wild beast, including the roaring sound, which must be a wild beast like a tiger or leopard. So in the village chief's mind, although this shovel is not a sharp weapon, it can still play a role, and even play a role in driving away wild beasts after it is knocked. However, the village chief relied on his own experience, reacted quickly and thought very carefully, but when he turned around and waited for the terrifying figure to approach, he suddenly widened his eyes and trembled with fear. What is this? Is it a human or a ghost? When it got closer, the village chief saw clearly that the one rushing over was not a wild beast at all, but a rotten and dry face with white hair on the body, and a faint fluorescence. Except for the sharp teeth, there was no trace of a wild beast on the whole body. Roar! The speed of this white-haired monster was very fast. It arrived in front of the village chief in an instant. The nails on its 2 claws flashed with cold light. If it was caught, it would be ripped open. At this critical moment, Lin Kaiyun rushed here and saw the village chief and his 2 men in danger. He shouted to remind them, "What are you thinking? You two, get out of the way." However, the village chief and his son Wu Danian were so scared at this time that they had no time to react and could only wait to die on the spot. Alice, Lin Kaiyun sighed when he saw this, then took out a magic talisman from his arms, stuck it on his feet, and urged his spiritual energy again, making his speed increase again. Wu Danian looked at the claws that were so close, and cried and shouted his last words, "Dad, I don't want to die." Bang! Just when the claws of this white-haired monster were only a few centimeters away from the village chief and Wu Danian, Lin Kaiyun also strode into the air and clapped his hands. The sky and the earth are boundless, the universe borrows the law, spell in the palm. The spiritual energy gathered in the center of Lin Kaiyun's palm, shining like a night pearl in the dark night, and like a flash of lightning in the darkness, directly hitting the white-haired monster. The white-haired monster was hit hard on the side, and its body flew out uncontrollably. In the air, it roared at the human who suddenly appeared, and its claws kept waving, but it only caught a lonely one. "Are you okay? Get away from it quickly. This monster is not a wild beast," Lin Kaiyun said to the village chief and his son, and then looked vigilantly in the direction where the white-haired monster landed. After hearing this, the village chief and his son returned to their senses, and they also reacted. When they saw that it was Lin Kaiyun who saved them, they had no time to thank him, and they turned around and avoided. The village chief and his son also avoided in time. Just as they turned around and ran, the white-haired monster roared and pounced on them again. Heaven and Earth Mysterious Sect, the root of all energy, practice 10,000 calamities, prove my supernatural power, Golden Light Mantra. Lin Kaiyun was not polite either. He passed the golden flame on his right foot, jumped into the air, and kicked the white-haired monster in the face. The white-haired monster endured the burning of the golden flame and bit Lin Kaiyun's toes, but was attacked by another kick. This time the white-haired monster could no longer hold on and was kicked aside. Roar! The white-haired monster roared angrily, and after falling to the ground, it quickly bounced up again, ran on all fours, and rushed towards Lin Kaiyun again. At the same time, the nails on its claws grew a little longer, leaving many small holes on the ground. What is this? It looks like a zombie, but not a zombie. Facing the white-haired monster that pounced on him, Lin Kaiyun was not in a hurry to take action. Instead, he used the moonlight to study the type of this monster. The torso and characteristics of this white-haired monster are very similar to zombies, but it does not have zombie teeth, and it does not need to jump around. Roar! The white-haired monster ran in front of Lin Kaiyun and waved its claws at Lin Kaiyun's legs. Interesting, flying in the air doesn't work. Change to attacking from the bottom 3 ways. Could it be that you, a monster, also have wisdom? Lin Kaiyun lightly tiptoed back and easily dodged the claws of the white-haired monster. Then, Lin Kaiyun took out the ink fountain, pulled out a piece of string and threw it out. I have a room, half of which I rent to the rotating king. Sometimes, a ray of light is released, and the evil demons in the world dare not block it. The ink fountain line suddenly turned red in the air, as if it was stained with chicken blood, like a red-hot iron wire. Lin Kaiyun stretched the ink fountain line with his fingers and directly wrapped it around the waist of the white-haired monster. Then Lin Kaiyun wrapped the ink fountain line around his palm twice, fixed it, and pulled it hard. The white-haired monster immediately lost its balance, turned several circles in the air, and fell to the ground. Chapter 207, Iron Skin and Iron Bones. It must be said that this white-haired monster is extremely resistant to falling. Since meeting Lin Kaiyun, he has been thrown down by Lin Kaiyun 3 or 4 times in a few breaths. However, this white-haired monster can get up immediately every time, and this time is no exception. However, this white-haired monster has learned to be smart now. It no longer attacks blindly, but stares at Lin Kaiyun with its red eyes, and hisses continuously. Lin Kaiyun did not act rashly. After these collisions, Lin Kaiyun also roughly understood the characteristics of this white-haired monster. It is agile, can land on all fours, and moves quickly and flexibly. Its claws and teeth are its main weapons. At the same time, its dry body has extremely amazing defense power, and it even has a bit of copper skin and iron bones. When Lin Kaiyun kicked the white-haired monster in the face before, he could still feel the pain through his shoes. Even though this white-haired monster is agile, it is still very difficult to hurt Lin Kaiyun. However, this copper skin and iron bones also make some of Lin Kaiyun's attacks difficult to work. It seems that I still have to rely on it. Lin Kaiyun took out the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword from his storage belt and looked at the white-haired monster not far away with a sharp look. It seems that this heaven collapse and earth-splitting slash and the 7 killing orders of gods and ghosts can cause a devastating blow to the white-haired monster. However, the white-haired monster seemed to sense Lin Kaiyun's killing intention or sense something else. It roared at Lin Kaiyun, got on all fours, and turned around and ran away. Want to run? Are you kidding? I'm ready to start the fight first, and I can still let you run away. Lin Kaiyun didn't expect that the white-haired monster would actually run away. He was very surprised, but his reaction was not slow. He jumped up and the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword cut through the sky, like a bright moon in the night sky, flashing with cold light and slashing at the white-haired monster. Snap! The sword blade was stuck on the back of the white-haired monster's waist, making a sharp sound of steel collision, and even splashing sparks. No way? He really has a skin of steel, Lin Kaiyun exclaimed, but his hand movements were very smooth. The ink line popped out from his left wrist, coiled in the air, and tightly wrapped around the legs of the white-haired monster. Lin Kaiyun pointed the sword upward, and cut a hole with the ink line with his left finger. He flicked it lightly, and the blood splashed on the hilt of the sword. When the blood bead touched the hilt, it quickly turned into a straight line. Then, Lin Kaiyun's eyes flashed, and he straightened the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword and shouted loudly, "The bright sun and moon, the glory of the universe, protect my golden body." The demons and ghosts on all sides turn into dust in a moment. The 7 stars return to their positions, and Dragon Abyss kills the enemy, kill the evil. The blade of the sword was shining brightly, and the huge sword shadow flew down from the sky, as if it was a punishment from heaven, and slashed the white-haired monster. Roar! The white-haired monster screamed in pain. It did not dodge. In fact, it could not dodge. The sword shadow completely cut into its body. In an instant, the white hair on its body was shattered by this powerful energy. The green fluorescence on its body also dimmed. A deep mark appeared on its skin, which was as hard as copper and iron. White smoke sizzled out, but the blade of the seven-star dragon abyss sword and the body of the white-haired monster were in a stalemate. No matter how hard Lin Kaiyun tried, he could not cut into it for a while. This defense is so strong, it's really beyond my expectation. Lin Kaiyun tightly grabbed the ink line on his left hand. Although the white-haired monster temporarily withstood his attack, its current state was no different from fat meat on the chopping board, allowing Lin Kaiyun to slaughter it. Lin Kaiyun stepped forward and pressed his foot against the back of the white-haired monster's neck. With a sudden force, he stepped half of the white-haired monster's body into the mud. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun bit his tongue and spat blood on the palm of his right hand. The moment the blood touched his palm, it spread and gathered, gradually turning into a word chi. Then, Lin Kaiyun pressed the word chi against the seven-star dragon abyss sword, leaned sideways and pushed hard. Suddenly, the seven-star dragon abyss sword trembled, making a low-frequency sound, like a sound wave, eroding the body of the white-haired monster wave by wave. Roar! The white-haired monster roared in pain, and it could feel the sword in the hand of this human gradually piercing its body. The white-haired monster, which had been completely controlled by Lin Kaiyun, showed extremely powerful strength at this time, and almost pushed Lin Kaiyun away, but Lin Kaiyun used the characteristics of the ink line to suppress evil things, so that the white-haired monster's escape was in vain. At this time, the white-haired monster's hair, which was as hard as a broom, all became longer, and pierced Lin Kaiyun like steel needles, and then the steel needle-like hair gathered into a ball, like a hedgehog, spinning desperately. Lin Kaiyun did not expect that this white-haired monster would have such an attack method. He was caught off guard and his wrists and calves were stabbed, and blood oozed out. Not only is it made of iron, but even its hair is so hard. What on earth is this thing? The white hair, like steel needles, was very dense and could penetrate everywhere. The most important thing was that Lin Kaiyun was stepping on the body of this white-haired monster, and the soles of his feet were the easiest place to be hit, so he could not use defensive moves like Bagwazang Hushan. There was no other way, so Lin Kaiyun could only turn over and jump off the body of the white-haired monster. Although the ink line was still tied to the legs of the white-haired monster, without Lin Kaiyun's suppression, the ink line was also broken free by the white-haired monster. After the white-haired monster broke free, it shook off the dirt on its body, stared at Lin Kaiyun viciously, and did not choose to retaliate, but turned around and prepared to escape. You didn't attack me, it seems you have something important to do? But then I won't let you succeed. A smile appeared on Lin Kaiyun's lips. He held the seven-star dragon abyss sword in his hand, and stepped forward with his feet. He stepped out of a seven-star point. In an instant, the Big Dipper in the sky also flickered, as if responding to this point. Lin Kaiyun stood at the seven-star Qian position, and threw the seven-star dragon abyss sword into the air casually. He held the counterattack formula in his hand. As the formula progressed, the seven-star dragon abyss sword kept flashing. Buzz! The buzzing sound sounded, and the seven-star dragon abyss sword seemed to have a phantom clone. For a moment, there were three identical seven-star dragon abyss swords floating in the air. Xianxu, Xianxun, Xianji, and Xianquan are complete. The three seven-star Longjing swords split into two and fell into place. Yuheng, Kaiyang, and Yao Guangdebang are complete. Lin Kaiyun shouted, Xiangang Bidao formation. Complete, boom. The seven-star points on the ground quickly connected into a straight line, trapping the white-haired monster in it. Chapter 208 I know what you are, monster. With a bang, the 7 points quickly connected into line, like a big net, trapping the white-haired monster in it. Roar. The white-haired monster stopped, looked at the sword formation set by Lin Kaiyun with great fear, and roared at Lin Kaiyun angrily. Run, why don't you run, are you kidding me? If I let you slip away like this, will I still have face? How can I survive in Maotian in the future? Lin Kaiyun showed a slight smile on his face, took a relaxed step, and walked towards the white-haired monster trapped in the sword formation. The sharp white hair on the white-haired monster's body exploded as before, and continued to extend to test the power of the sword formation. However, the moment the white hair touched the phantom of the sword blade spun wildly, and the white hair like a steel needle was instantly cut off. In this situation, the white-haired monster dared not approach the edge of the sword formation, and kept moving towards the center, while roaring non-stop. But this time it was not a threatening roar, but full of vigilance and fear. Okay, although I really want to catch you and study you, you are a troublesome thing, and I am too lazy to make any effort, so you should just die." Lin Kaiyun was too lazy to catch this thing covered with thorns. Anyway, he just wanted to study what this thing was. Even if it died, he could still study it. Lin Kaiyun waved his fingers and gently raised them upwards as if he was fiddling with a sword manual. Whoosh! A sword beam shot out from the Qianquan position at an extremely fast speed, and the sword blade pierced the white-haired monster's jaw. Whoosh! Another sword beam shot out from the Qianshu position. This time, the white-haired monster was very alert and rolled to avoid it as soon as the sword beam was shot out, but the sword beam was extremely fast and was able to turn while flying, piercing the white-haired monster again. But this was just the beginning. Lin Kaiyun flipped his hands quickly and shouted, "Chi!" Continuous sword beams shot out from the 7 points on the ground. Suddenly, the entire sword formation seemed to be 1,000 swords returning to their roots. The sword light flashed and was unavoidable. Swish! 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 The sound of the sword beams was very smooth and pleasant, but for the white-haired monster, this sound was its death knell. Even though the white-haired monster surrounded itself with all the needle-like hair on its body, the dense sword light was like a seamless sword net, covering the white-haired monster tightly and constantly cutting it. Roar! The white-haired monster was wrapped in long hair at this time. It was impossible to see its appearance and expression, but Lin Kaiyun could clearly hear its miserable howling. However, this was also normal. If the white-haired monster had average defense, it might be strangled by the sword formation in an instant, and it would not suffer any pain. The problem is that this white-haired monster has a body of copper and iron, and the white hair on its body can be long or short, and it is as hard as a steel needle. This abnormal defense is probably only slightly lower than the zombie King Zhengying encountered before. And it is precisely this terrifying defense that makes the sword light in the 7-star sword formation unable to cause direct damage to the white-haired monster. So it becomes like a blunt knife cutting meat. The pain can be imagined. Which is almost the same as being executed by slow slicing. I said that you monster should be able to understand human language. Hurry up and give up defense, so that you can die more easily. Lin Kaiyun stood beside the sword formation, controlling the sword light with his fingers. In his opinion, the white-haired monster is now a turtle in a jar. Even if the defense is extremely strong, it can only delay the time of death and increase the pain. Roar! The white-haired monster can really understand Lin Kaiyun's words. After Lin Kaiyun's persuasion, it roared as if in response to Lin Kaiyun, but the meaning of this roar is not to surrender. I saw that in the sword formation, the white-haired monster, which had been cut and covered with the wounds, stood up straight at this time, and the white hair surrounding it for defense also shrank rapidly. Right. That's right. If you give up defense, you will suffer less and die more easily. Lin Kaiyun thought that the monster had suffered enough and was ready to fight to death. However, Lin Kaiyun was not wrong. The white-haired monster was indeed ready to fight, but it was hard to say whether it was going to die. The white-haired monster in the sword formation arched its body and let out a huge howl. The sound made Lin Kaiyun's ears buzz. At this moment, the white-haired monster, who had completely given up defense, had blue veins all over his body, and he continued to exert force. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the blue veins on the white-haired monster's body became thicker and thicker, and kept turning outward, as if it had swallowed up all the dry flesh and blood. In the end, it exploded and was covered in a blood mist. What's going on? Did it explode because it couldn't bear it? Lin Kaiyun looked at the blood mist in the sword array in confusion. No, this monster is not dead yet. After a few seconds, Lin Kaiyun could clearly feel that the sword light was still killing something, which means that the white-haired monster did not explode and disappear. Roar! A clearer roar came from this voice, without any miserable emotions, as if the king had returned. In the sword array, the sword light was still densely shuttling, and the blood mist gradually dissipated, and a terrifying figure appeared. This figure had no similarities with the previous white-haired monster, and was very scary and weird. The white hair on the body disappeared, and the dried flesh and blood also disappeared. What was left was the skeleton emitting green fluorescence, and the black and red veins circling and sticking to the skeleton. Because of this, the monster's body was more than a circle smaller than before, and it looked very slender. Roar! The monster, which had become a bundle of bones and tendons, raised its head. There were no eyeballs in its eye sockets. It was like two black holes, but it was flashing with scarlet light. The attacks in the sword array did not stop because of this. Every time the sword pierced through, the monster's black tendons would be cut off, but every time they were cut, they would quickly connect together without any signs of injury, as if nothing had happened. This tendon? I finally know what you are, this monster. I didn't expect that there would be in this small mountain village. Lin Kaiyun finally recognized what this monster was at this time. It is said that claws are the remainder of tendons, hairs the remainder of blood, and teeth are the remainder of bones. Those who are exposed is also a kind of zombie, or more accurately, a variant of zombies. You should know that Hanba is the ancestor of zombies, and there are many different opinions about the reasons for the formation of Hanba, but there is one thing in the records of Maoshan, that is, Hanba absorbed the soul of the and became a zombie. Chapter 209, Stealing Furniture Again? Zombies have no souls and escape from the 3 realms, and are not on the 5 elements. In fact, fundamentally speaking, the blood-sucking zombies that appear in this world now are all descendants of the zombie king Jiang Chen. And Hanba does not need to suck blood at all. To be precise, Ba is the descendant of Hanba. The formation of Ba is similar to Hanba. It happens to absorb ghosts at the same time as the corpse changes, and merges with a ghost to become Ba. It is simple to say, but the conditions for the formation of Ba are very harsh. First, there must be a body that has been transformed into a zombie, and at the same time, there must be a newly formed ghost, and they must be merged at the same time. Because the body of a zombie originally rejects all ghosts, it is very rare to merge successfully. Even if it is artificial, it is very difficult to succeed, let alone the Ba that is naturally formed in the wild. So since crossing into this zombie world, this is also the second time Lin Kaiyun has met Ba. The previous time was when he was 10 years old and followed Lin Jiu. But when Lin Kaiyun followed Lin Jiu to see Ba, it was just a skeleton and tendons, so Lin Kaiyun did not recognize the white-haired monster's appearance before. At this moment, Ba, who was staring at Lin Kaiyun, moved, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and rushed to the edge of the sword formation without hesitation. Zizi. The edge of the sword formation is above the 7-star point, and the phantom of the 7-star dragon abyss sword is connected, so the toughness is not comparable to the sword light in the sword formation. The moment Ba's 2 arms touched the sword formation, there was a steel-like collision sound, and at the same time, the black tendons on Ba's arms were constantly torn. Roar! Ba shouted desperately, and with a shout, he continuously hit the sword formation with his head, which actually caused a crack in the sword formation that the royal zombies could not break free from last time. This skeleton is so powerful. Lin Kaiyun did not expect that the power of this Ba was so great that it had the tendency to break through the sword formation. However, how could Lin Kaiyun let it succeed easily? He waved his hands and manipulated the attack of the sword light in the sword formation more quickly. But Ba was unmoved. Facing the even more powerful sword attack, Ba did not choose to dodge, allowing the sword to cut its black tendons. At the same time, Ba desperately hit the edge of the sword formation, completely ignoring his arms. Crunch! Bang! 2 consecutive sounds came. First, Ba's arm was broken alive due to the huge force. And the arm with broken bones had a sharp part, which actually formed a little surface effect, breaking the sword formation in one fell swoop. At the moment the sword formation was destroyed, a violent explosion occurred. The phantom of the 7-star dragon abyss sword at the 7-star point became torn into pieces, bombarding all objects within the range. This kind of explosive attack does not distinguish between enemies and friends. Even Lin Kaiyun can only choose to retreat temporarily to avoid it. Ba was the closest and received the first wave, which was also the most powerful attack. Especially the 2 arms, it was not just broken, but turned into ashes. The rest of the Ba's body was also damaged. Even though the black tendons had a strong ability to recover, it was difficult to repair such a large area of injury quickly. However, the Ba endured the pain and ran away in big strides. Lin Kaiyun was forced back by the explosion of the sword formation, and there was no time and space to stop the Ba from escaping. Ba, this guy really escaped. Lin Kaiyun spit out the dust in his mouth, staring at the direction of Ba's escape with an unhappy face. Wait, this Ba wanted to escape from the beginning of the fight, as if he wanted to find something. Lin Kaiyun seemed to realize something, and kept thinking about possible situations in his mind. It's strange that a Ba appears in Lirgao village. What else can it be looking for? Wait, it can't be Da King Feng. Lin Kaiyun, who was thinking while touching his chin, suddenly had an idea in his mind. They came to Litergo village because of the map, and the map was drawn by the person who turned Dai Qingfeng's left arm into a zombie arm, so it would be right to consider this matter in any situation. If this is the case, then will the target of this be Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm? When seeing Dai Qingfeng's arm, Lin Kaiyun felt that this arm was very similar to the corpse of Han Ba at that time. Now it seems that Dai Qingfeng's arm is not a zombie arm at all, but a Ba arm. Oh no, thinking of this, Lin Kaiyun knew the target of Ba, and now that he was not there, Dai Qingfeng and the others would definitely not be able to resist. Then Lin Kaiyun did not dare to delay at all, and directly took out a magic talisman, attached it to his body, and rushed to Li Liuxuan's home without stopping. At the same time, in Li Liuxuan's home, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were both sleeping soundly, without any vigilance, and did not hear anything unusual. Instead, Li Liuxuan, who is an ordinary family, heard a noise in his yard. Then Li Liuxuan put on his coat, took a half-burned candle, and walked out in a daze. He saw a dark shadow in the yard. He was not afraid, but muttered, "Who is it? In the middle of the night, is it Ergauzi? Come to steal my finished furniture again?" This situation had happened before. A bachelor in the village sneaked into his yard just to steal a chair, so this time Li Liuxuan also subconsciously thought so. However, Li Liuxuan's question did not get any response, but the dark shadow quickly pounced on Li Liuxuan. Li Liuxuan saw the true face of the dark shadow, and screamed in fear, and was pounced to the ground and bitten to death by this armless Ba. Even if Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were sleeping soundly and not alert, the sound in the yard woke them up. What's going on? Something's wrong. Brother Lin is not here either, really. Master Lin, when did you go out? How come we didn't know? Stop talking nonsense, put on your clothes quickly, there's something going on in the yard. However, before Dai Qingfeng and Luoan could put on their clothes, Ba broke through the window and rushed in. Damn, what is this? It looks so disgusting. Luoan was startled by Ba who broke in while holding his pants. He was even more shocked when he saw the appearance clearly in the moonlight. Ba is a skeleton with black tendons sticking to it. At this time, Ba was covered in blood because he had eaten Li Liuxuan. Under the moonlight, it looked like a skeleton devil crawling out of the blood sea of hell. What is this thing? Dai Qingfeng was so frightened by the sudden appearance of this monster that he collapsed to the ground. Even though he had encountered a tiger monster before, this thing was too terrifying. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210, Knocked to the Ground. Dai Qingfeng's condition was only slightly better than Luoan's at this time. After all, he had put on his clothes. Although the buttons were tight and the clothes were worn backwards, it was much better than Luoan who was only holding up his pants. However, Dai Qingfeng's current appearance was much more embarrassed than Luoan. This monster without arms rushed into the house, roared at Luoan, and then stared at Dai Qingfeng closely. The empty eyes flashed red light, full of bloodthirsty murderous intent, which Dai Qingfeng also noticed. What kind of monster is this? Dai Qingfeng swallowed his saliva, picked up a sawdust pillow at random, and retreated to the wall. If Lin Kaiyun was here, he would definitely point at Dai Qingfeng and scold him. Holding a pillow was useless and was a burden. The wall was stupid and blocked his way back. However, Dai Qingfeng's brain was blank at this time because he was scared. He had no time to think about these things. He just subconsciously felt that he should hold something in his hand as a weapon, and leaning against the wall would also make him feel safe. Seeing that the terrifying monster ignored him, Luoan, who was standing by, quickly took the opportunity to put on his clothes and picked up the big knife placed in the corner. At this time, the monster was facing Luoan, which was a good opportunity for a sneak attack, but Luoan hesitated for a moment and really didn't have the courage to do it. If the tiger monster from the previous week was bigger, it was still within his psychological tolerance, so he dared to attack. But this skeleton without arms that broke into the house was a real monster, and Luoan didn't have the confidence to attack. Then Luoan carried the big knife and rolled around the terrifying skeleton. Before leaving, he didn't forget to shout to Dai Qingfeng by the wall, "Boss Dai, what are you doing with this broken pillow? Hurry up and run." "Oh, run." Dai Qingfeng, whose mind was blank, also reacted after hearing Luoan's shout. Although Dai Qingfeng had a zombie arm, After a lot of time of familiarity, he could use it simply, but it was still just in the realm of increasing strength. Dai Qingfang used to be an ordinary person who liked to spend his days drinking and partying. He had no experience in fighting and killing, so he was not as sober as Luoan in dealing with the situation. However, after hearing Luoan's reminder, Dai Qingfang also realized how stupid it was to lean against the wall. He was now blocked by the bloody skeleton and had no room to escape. "You monster, Dai!" There was no other way. The panicked Dai Qingfang was like an ant on a hot pot. He could not find any chance to escape. He could only throw the pillow on the face of the monster in front of him by instinct. At the same time, the zombie arm swung desperately. After the zombie arm merged with Dai Qingfang's body, it brought him a great increase in strength. Before going out this time, Dai Qingfang had done a test at home. This zombie arm alone could lift a 300 jin tripod. At this time, the swinging felt even more like a big opening and closing, with great force and heaviness. The fast frequency drove the surrounding air, and accidentally formed a certain vacuum force field. It must be said that Dai Qingfang's tortoise fist was so vivid and impressive that even Ba was forced to take a step back by this sudden and fierce attack. Roar! Ba stood up and roared. It was an intelligent being. After a short retreat, it realized that the weak human in front of it was bluffing. AWW. Ba opened its mouth at Dai Qingfang and roared with full momentum, and then quickly pounced on Dai Qingfang. Because Ba lost both arms when escaping from Lin Kaiyun's sword formation, it had problems with its sense of balance. When it ran, it twisted and swayed and could not move in a straight line. Dai Qingfang didn't know what was going on. When he saw this skeleton, the monster ran so strangely, and he felt even more terrified. He couldn't swing the tortoise fist anymore, and subconsciously raised his zombie arm and held it horizontally in front of him to resist. Dai Qingfang was crouching by the wall with his hands in front of him, like a frightened young wife. And Ba also roared in cooperation, his voice full of joy and greed. Ba was certainly not greedy for Dai Qingfang, but for Dai Qingfang's raised zombie arm, which was the purpose of its entry. Roar! Ba opened its mouth excitedly and bit down on Dai Qingfang's zombie arm. Swish! Swish! Bang! The red hair on Dai Qingfang's zombie arm could stretch freely like before Ba transformed. It stretched out and merged into a strand, and whipped Ba's face fiercely. Ba was only focused on devouring the zombie arm at this time, and had no intention of defending himself. In addition, he lost both arms, had no sense of balance and could not fight back, and was knocked to the ground by the red hair on the zombie arm. Dai Qingfang was so frightened that he could only shout to vent. He had no idea of the situation. He only felt the monster's figure and breath in front of him. At the same time, his zombie arm was pulled. At this time, Luoan, who was lying by the window, reminded Dai Qingfang loudly, "Boss Dai, what are you thinking about? Run, the monster has fallen." Fortunately, after Luoan ran out of the house, he did not run for his life regardless of the consequences. Instead, he quietly lay by the window to observe the situation after seeing that the monster's target was not him, so he was able to remind Dai Qingfang in time. When Dai Qingfang heard Luoan's voice, he had the hope of escaping. At this time, he was surprisingly calm. He put down his zombie arm and saw that it was indeed a skeleton monster that fell to the ground. At the same time, because he had no arms, he stood up very slowly. This was a great opportunity to escape. Dai Qingfang certainly would not let it go. His zombie arm pushed the wall behind him fiercely, and with the help of this force, he bounced himself out and directly past the monster. Roar! When Ba saw Dai Qingfang flying over him, he struggled to jump up, opened his mouth wide, and tried to bite Dai Qingfang. But the loss of his arms had a huge impact on Ba, making the originally agile and swift Ba become extremely clumsy, and he completely missed, not even touching the hair. After Dai Qingfang passed the monster, he rolled to the ground, then jumped up and ran like a rabbit. After running out of the door, he shouted to Luoan, "Luoan, run, let's go find Lin Kaiyun." Luoan clenched his sword and followed Dai Qingfang, tilting his head and shouting anxiously, "It's the middle of the night, who knows where Master Lin has gone? Let's find a crowded place first." Roar! A deafening voice came from behind, and Dai Qingfang and Luoan secretly said that it was not good. I saw a black shadow easily surpassing the two of them and stopped them at the gate of the courtyard. This shadow was none other than Ba. Ba, who had lost his arm, had a bad sense of balance and became clumsy. But once he stood up successfully, even if he ran crookedly, he would be faster than Dai Qingfang and Luoan. Luowen held the big knife in front of him and stared at Ba vigilantly. His feet did not move at all. After a glance, Dai Qingfang asked, "Boss Dai, what should we do now? Split up and run? The wall of this yard is not high. I can jump over it. You should be able to do it too, right?" According to Luowen's many years of experience in fighting and killing, whether facing an enemy or a wild beast, blindly running away is not the best strategy, especially when the opponent is much faster than you, just like now. If you run away in a hurry, you will only give your back to this monster, and then you will have no chance to react or resist. Facing this monster, although you are not an opponent, you can at least resist and react. Maybe if you are lucky, it can also serve as a deterrent. Of course, this is just Luowen's personal experience and opinion. Dai Qingfang has no such idea. As for why he didn't move, the reason is very simple. Because he saw Luowen didn't move, he didn't dare to act rashly. At the same time, Dai Qingfang also had his own little thoughts. The target of this monster was obviously himself. If he ran away, the monster would definitely chase him. It would be better to stand with the Luowen. Dai Qingfang clenched the zombie arm into a fist and faced the Ba in front of him, with a desperate posture. At the same time, he tilted his head and smiled at Luowen. "Luowen, I didn't expect you to be so loyal. I thought you should have left me and ran away before." Although Luowen is a big man, neither Lin Kaiyun nor Dai Qingfang has ever regarded Luowen as a fool. So Dai Qingfang believes that Luowen must know his calculations, so Luowen did not choose to run away now, which means he is ready to share the joys and sorrows with him. Luowen heard Dai Qingfang's question at this time and grinned. "Hey, what reason can I have for not running away? Because the previous life was too dull. Now is the mercenary life I want, risking life and death, exploring and searching for treasures, and overcoming difficulties together." Luowen has been very active since he was a child, and developed earlier than other children. In fact, he is not from a martial arts family, nor is he a martial arts genius. It's just that Luowen was the leader of the children when he was young. He often took a group of children in the village to explore everywhere, digging bird eggs and bamboo rats, and it became more and more serious as he grew up. Because Luowen has a strange disease, he doesn't easily feel excited, even visiting brothels doesn't have such a feeling. He only feels excited when he takes risks. So Luowen practiced kung fu for his dream of adventure and joined the mercenary business. In Luowen's mind, mercenaries are an adventurous industry, and they can follow different employers and experience different accidents and dangers. Of course, this is all Luowen's wishful thinking. After all, when he was a mercenary, he faced the most bandits and mountain bandits, and there was no adventure and excitement as he imagined. However, at this moment tonight, Luowen felt the precious and long-awaited excitement in his body. Facing this unprecedented monster, Luowen was not afraid, but felt a surge of blood. So in Luowen's view, this moment was the mercenary life he had always dreamed of, and this time was not for escaping. "Okay, Luowen, if you can survive today, you are my savior, you are my brother." Dai Qingfang shook his head and smiled after hearing Luowen's answer. In fact, he did not understand Luowen's statement, but he still understood the meaning. That is, Luowen told him that he would not abandon him. A friend in need is a friend indeed. From the moment Luowen said this, Dai Qingfang was very grateful to Luowen in his heart and said, "Luowen, if you wait a moment, at the critical moment, you can just abandon me and run away. This monster's target should only be me, okay? Don't be so sensational. I'm so excited now. Since I can't run away, fight this monster." Luowen nodded and attacked directly with a knife. Although what he said was very stiff, his expression had told Dai Qingfang that he accepted this favor. Dai Qingfang raised his zombie arm and took a look. If it were in the past, he would definitely take advantage of Luowen's attack on the monster to escape, but now Dai Qingfang would not escape. Dai Qingfang certainly didn't have Luowen's mercenary plots and adventurous spirit. He was an egoist, as could be seen from his previous attempt to kill Luowen to silence him. However, Dai Qingfang now knew that he was no longer a human because of this zombie arm. If he left Luowen, who was so righteous, and walked away, then he would not only be a zombie arm, but also a zombie. "Luowen, don't panic, I'm coming," Dai Qingfang said with a big laugh, and rushed forward with his zombie arm raised. Luowen smiled very obscurely, muttering quietly, "This is the mercenary life I want." When Luowen launched the attack, he didn't consider whether Dai Qingfang would escape, nor did he want to consider it. His attack didn't have any fake moves, and he really chopped at the monster's head. Luo's broadsword easily cut off the black tendons on the bones of the Ba, but the black tendons grew again, and there was a feeling that it couldn't be cut. Ba completely ignored Luo's attack, and all its attention was on Dai Qingfeng. After all, Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm had knocked it aside. As a Ba, it seemed to know where the zombie arm came from, and it seemed quite afraid. So after stopping Dai Qingfeng and Luo, it did not directly attack, but kept looking for an opportunity. At this time, Dai Qingfeng waved his zombie arm and took the initiative to attack. Ba was very alert. He did not rush towards the zombie arm regardless of anything like he did at the beginning. Instead, he twisted his body and kept a certain distance from Dai Qingfeng who was attacking. Luo also noticed something strange and asked in confusion, "Boss Dai, I found that this monster seems to be afraid of you? I saw from the window just now that it seemed that it was your arm that knocked it aside." "It should be afraid of your arm," Dai Qingfeng nodded, "it should be. It seems that it is afraid of my zombie arm. In this case, let's take advantage of this and find an opportunity to escape." Chapter 211 Must Be Dreaming. Dai Qingfeng kept swinging his right arm to hit the zombie in front of him, while his eyes were always looking for places to escape, and he even planned several routes in his mind. Facing the relentless pressure from Dai Qingfeng's zombie right arm, the zombie without arms already had poor balance, and it looked even more embarrassed to dodge at this time. Roar! The zombie roared, and really had no patience to dodge anymore. It jumped more than 2 meters high, opened its big mouth full of sharp teeth, and bit down on Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm, wanting to devour it. However, the roar of the zombie did not change the reality. As before, when the big mouth of the zombie approached Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm, Dai Qingfeng did not need to react or take action. The hair on the zombie arm exploded again and pushed the zombie out. "Luoan, now is a good opportunity, step on the wall over there and run." Dai Qingfeng saw that Ba was forced to retreat, and realized that this was an opportunity to escape that could not be missed, and then shouted to Luoan who was still attacking. Luoan, who had originally raised his big knife to kill him while he was sick, did not have time to think after hearing Dai Qingfeng's words, dragged the big knife behind him and nodded, "Okay, let's go together." Dai Qingfeng and Luoan stepped on the wall one after the other, and used the power of their feet to climb over the yard of Li Liuxuan's house. At this time, Zhuang and his mother, who had been crying while holding Li Liuxuan's body, cried for help. "Don't abandon us, save us." Dai Qingfeng and Luoan looked at each other after hearing the cry for help, and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Neither of them had the intention to save the mother and son, so they turned around and ran away. Although Dai Qingfeng and Luoan did not abandon each other and run away alone, it does not mean that these two guys are good people. Seeing that Dai Qingfeng and Luoan didn't even turn their heads, Zhuang cursed in despair, "Our family has been wholeheartedly entertaining you guys for a day. Even if we didn't make any contributions, we have worked hard. In the end, you couldn't even help us. What's the difference between you and the beast?" Zhuang cursed with such sincerity, as if he had forgotten that his family was so wholehearted because of the $2. However, Zhuang's curse did not get a response from Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, but instead attracted the attention of Ba. Originally, Ba's target this time was Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm. If Li Liuxuan hadn't run into it when he went out to check, Ba wouldn't have eaten him. So when Li Liuxuan died and Zhuang and his mother ran out, Ba didn't have any intention of attacking, but now Ba seemed to realize something. Staggering, he quickly ran in front of Zhuang, opened his big mouth in front of Zhuang's sight, and picked up her mother. Zhuang's mother didn't even have time to dodge before she felt the sharp pain of the bite on her shoulder. She cried and begged Zhuang for help. "Ah, it hurts, Wang, save me." However, the monster didn't seem to want to eat Zhuang's mother. After biting her shoulder, it picked her up and ran away. Zhuang was stunned. In a breath, the monster ran to his side and took his mother away. He wanted to hold his mother's hand, but found that his legs were so scared that they were paralyzed. The monster held Zhuang's mother in its mouth and increased its speed to the highest level. It directly hit the place where Dai Qingfeng and Luoan had climbed over the wall before. With a bang, the wall was hit by the monster and a big hole was made. Zhuang's mother, who was held in its mouth, was squeezed by the wall and vomited blood. She fainted and seemed to be dead. She was only hanging on with one breath. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan climbed over the wall and didn't run 2 steps before they found that the monster had broken through the courtyard wall and chased after them, and it was holding Zhuang's mother, who had cooked for them for the past 2 days, in its mouth. Roar! Ba roared at Dai Qingfeng and Luoan. Because it was holding Ziwing's mother in its mouth, the sound seemed to come through the gap, which was very harsh. Boss Dai, what does this monster mean? Why is it chasing us with a person in its mouth? Luo looked at Dai Qingfeng with a puzzled look on his face. He couldn't understand why the monster chasing them was holding a person in its mouth. Was it hungry? So he had to hold food in his mouth at all times. I don't know, but this monster is not easy to get rid of. I'll use my zombie arm to cover it. Then you take the opportunity to attack the monster's neck. It may be the monster's weakness. Dai Qingfeng also didn't know why the monster was chasing them with Ziwing's mother in its mouth, but the monster didn't stop after breaking through the wall. It was very fast and almost rushed in front of them. So, regardless of what the monster's purpose was, he discussed a battle plan with Luowen. Luowen's previous attack on the monster's head had no effect. Now Dai Qingfeng thought that the monster's weakness might be the neck. Okay, Luowen did not hesitate after hearing Dai Qingfeng's words. He clenched his sword and rushed to the side. After running to the position, he shouted to Dai Qingfeng, "Boss Dai, do it." After hearing Luowen's shout, Dai Qingfeng raised his zombie right arm, kicked the ground with his feet, turned around and rushed towards the monster chasing him. Because the zombie right arm was able to restrain the monster before, Dai Qingfeng was not afraid at this time, but full of confidence. After all, the monster still had a person in its mouth, and it looked even more clumsy than before. However, when seeing Dai Qingfeng rushing over with his zombie arm waving, this time Ba did not choose to dodge, but bit Ziwing's mother in his mouth with his teeth. At the same time, Ba was desperately shaking his head vigorously, causing Ziwing's mother, who was already squeezed by the wall and had her internal organs ruptured, to die completely at this time. Although the person was dead, the blood in the body had not stopped flowing immediately. Under the biting and shaking of Ba, blood flew everywhere, splashing all over Ba. Dai Qingfeng, who rushed over with his zombie arm, was inevitably stained with the blood of Ziwing's mother. At this moment, Dai Qingfeng, who was originally full of confidence and ready to force Ba back, suddenly felt unbearable pain in his zombie arm. It felt like tens of thousands of ants were gnawing at his tendons and veins, which was more painful than when the zombie arm was just connected. Ah, it hurts so much, why didn't I get sick earlier or later? But at this time, Dai Qingfeng couldn't stand the pain anymore. He covered his right arm and screamed. At the same time, he knelt on the ground, holding the zombie arm with his left hand, and kept slapping the ground, hoping to relieve the pain in this way. But this meaningless action obviously had no effect. Dai Qingfeng's zombie right arm was in even more pain. The red hair on it seemed to have life at this time, floating up, greedily sucking the blood on it. Roar! When Ba saw this scene, he roared excitedly, holding Ziwing's mother in his mouth, and came to Dai Qingfeng, letting the blood flow freely on the zombie's arm. This weird and terrifying action frightened Dai Qingfeng, and he didn't care about the severe pain in the zombie's arm, and wanted to struggle to escape. But the pain in the zombie's arm was obviously beyond Dai Qingfeng's imagination. It was not only a severe pain in the senses, but also affected Dai Qingfeng's body. At this moment, he was so weak that he couldn't stand up. What's going on? How could this be? Dai Qingfeng looked at his zombie right arm in disbelief, his eyes full of horror. Now this zombie right arm is not just as simple as pain, it seems to be sucking the blood in Dai Qingfeng's body, making him very weak, and his eyes are also dark. Boss Dai, what's wrong with you? Why don't you run? Luowen also noticed Dai Qingfeng's abnormality. After being approached by the monster, he didn't resist or run away, but lay down, as if he had accepted his fate. Luowen, hurry up and leave. I can't run away anymore, this arm is killing me. Dai Qingfeng's face was very pale at this time, and he forced a smile at Luowen. Now Dai Qingfeng could feel that this zombie arm seemed to be alive, not only sucking his blood, but also devouring his body. His palm had grown zombie-like claws at this moment. I'm afraid that it won't be long before Dai Qingfeng, will become a complete zombie. Luowen didn't notice the changes in Dai Qingfeng. After all, at this time, he was already a thick-skinned man, so he naturally wouldn't notice that Dai Qingfeng's palm had mutated. Luowen did not act rashly. He looked at Dai Qingfeng and asked, "Damn it, Boss Dai, is there anything else I can do to help you?" Dai Qingfeng felt that his consciousness was a little fuzzy at this time. He opened his cracked lips and used his remaining strength to say to Luowen, "No, there is no way. From the moment I was connected to this zombie arm, I have been afraid that this day would come, but fear is useless. I can't escape even if I want to." After saying this, Dai Qingfeng fainted, and before he fainted, Dai Qingfang seemed to see Lin Kaiyun's figure. I must be dreaming. It seems that without Brother Lin, we are really nothing. The last thought flashed through Dai Qingfang's mind, and he fainted completely. Roar. Ba was also waiting excitedly beside Dai Qingfang, looking forward to the zombie arm to complete the final transformation. Seeing this scene, Luowen sighed. Now he had no way out, unless that great master Lin could come back. I say, what happened to you two? You were made into this state by such an armless Ba. At this moment, a familiar voice reached Luowen's ears. If Luowen heard it correctly, this voice was Lin Kaiyun, who was still muttering just now. Sure enough, Lin Kaiyun took a relaxed step and walked slowly over with his hands behind his back. Master Lin, you are finally back. You said this disgusting monster is Ba. What is Ba? Luowen was excited when he saw Lin Kaiyun's figure. Then he glanced at the monster next to Dai Qingfang and muttered, Ba, this monster is called Ba. After muttering, Luowen realized that the current situation was not the time to gossip, and shouted to Lin Kaiyun, Master Lin, this boss Dai seems to be dying, you hurry up and save him, don't worry. It's a small problem. Dai Qingfang is not going to die yet. Lin Kaiyun waved to Luowen. He had already noticed the changes in Dai Qingfang when he rushed back. Ba's goal was to get Dai Qingfang's zombie arm, and now Ba was preparing to use blood to awaken the zombie arm. Lin Kaiyun was not sure whether it would merge or devour it. However, the zombie arm was not spreading very fast, and it just caused Dai Qingfang's palm to change. You monster, you were having fun just now, why did you run away? And you bullied my two brothers, don't you think it was a coincidence? Lin Kaiyun walked towards Ba, shook his wrist, and showed a playful smile on his face. Roar. After seeing Lin Kaiyun, Ba roared angrily, dropped Ziwang's mother in his mouth, and stepped back a few steps with great vigilance. Although it was very important to revive this zombie arm, Ba was still very impressed by the threat of the human in front of him. The two arms that he was forced to throw away were because of the human in front of him. When Luowen saw this monster called Ba, he seemed to be frightened by Lin Kaiyun and took a few steps back. He couldn't help but give Lin Kaiyun a thumbs up and sighed, as expected of a great master like Lin, just showing up can scare this monster. Roar. Ba seemed to confirm Luowen's words, and roared at Lin Kaiyun in fear, and then turned around and ran away. Damn, you monster, you know how to judge the situation, and you run away so decisively when you see that things are not good. Lin Kaiyun didn't expect that Ba would have such human wisdom. After knowing that he was at a disadvantage, he was willing to abandon this zombie arm that had begun to mutate, and turned around and ran away. But how could Lin Kaiyun let it do what it wanted so easily? He touched the storage belt and took out the ink fountain from it. He held the ink line between his fingertips and swung it gently at the fleeing Ba. He held the spell in his hand and shouted loudly, I have a room, half of which I rent to the King of Wheels. Sometimes I can shoot out a ray of light, and all the evil demons in the world will not dare to face it. The ink line in the air instantly rose with red flames, like a giant red snake emerging from a volcano, and wrapped around Ba's waist. Roar. Ba roared. It had no way to deal with the ink line before, and now that it had lost its arm, it had no ability to get rid of it. After tying up Ba, Lin Kaiyun did not rush to pull it back, but Ba's eyes were fixed on a tree not far away. Lin Kaiyun wrapped the ink line around his palm twice to fix it, and then pulled it hard, and rammed towards the tree. Roar. Ba felt the force of Lin Kaiyun's pulling and pushed the ground with both feet desperately, but no matter how Ba struggled, it could not escape Lin Kaiyun's control and flew out uncontrollably along the ink line. Chapter 212, Picking Out Tendons. Ba's body is like steel and iron, and its defense is amazing. After discovering that the previous 7-star sword formation did not cause much damage to Ba, Lin Kaiyun knew that even if he used the 7 killing orders of gods and ghosts, or the collapse of mountains and earth-splitting slash, he was not sure that he could kill Ba. Although the 7 killing orders of gods and ghosts and the collapse of mountains and earth-splitting slash are both killing moves, including the strange blood arrow, Lin Kaiyun's realm is not too high after all, only the 4th level, and it is obviously unrealistic to want to kill Ba with amazing defense in one move. However, since a strong attack does not work, he chooses to outsmart it. Lin Kaiyun dragged Ba through the ink line, took a step, and jumped directly on the branches of the tree, then wrapped the ink line around the branches and jumped down immediately. Lin Kaiyun used the branches of the tree and the ink line to form a lever slide, and then Lin Kaiyun pressed down hard to hang Ba up. Although Ba had lost both hands and his balance was greatly reduced, he was still very strong. He struggled desperately when he was hung up, and almost broke free from Lin Kaiyun's control. Don't struggle. If I let you run twice in one night, I would be a failure. Lin Kaiyun stepped on the tree to stabilize the incline, then took out a few copper coins from his arms and stuck them on Ba's body, through the incline. The sky and the earth are boundless, and the universe borrows the law. 5 Emperor's coins, edict. Lin Kaiyun spoke confidently, holding the magic formula in his hand, and a stream of spiritual energy hit the copper coins. Bang! Suddenly, the 5 Emperor's coins flashed with golden light, and stuck to Ba's body like volcanic magma, and the incline passed by the 5 Emperor's coins turned into a big net, covering Ba tightly inside. Roar! The struggling Ba's movements became extremely slow. The 5 Emperor's coins and the big net not only trapped it, but also caused it continuous burns, and the black tendons on its body were constantly burned. At this time, Luowen, who was alert on the side, saw Lin Kaiyun tied Ba to the tree. He bravely walked to Lin Kaiyun's side, raised the big knife in his hand and patted Ba's head, and asked with his head tilted, "Master Lin, this Ba won't escape again." Lin Kaiyun used a small copper coin sword to pierce one end of the incline, bent over and inserted it into the soil. Although it was only inserted a few inches into the soil, and even when the wind blew, the copper coin sword was still shaking, but the incline seemed extremely solid, and it was useless for Ba to struggle painfully. Then Lin Kaiyun stood up and clapped his hands, answering Luowen's question, "No, but this Ba has a very strong defense. Now it is trapped, but it is not easy to kill it. But I also have a way, which requires you to open the mouth of this Ba." "Ah! Open the monster's mouth." Luowen was shocked when he heard Lin Kaiyun's words. He glanced at the Ba's mouth full of sharp teeth and blood. He shuddered subconsciously, then looked at Lin Kaiyun embarrassedly and asked, "Master Lin, can you change a task for me? This monster's mouth looks hard to deal with." "Haha, Luowen, didn't you say something about your blood boiling before, the life of a mercenary? I heard you shouting from quite a distance. Why are you timid now?" Lin Kaiyun saw Luowen's frightened look and laughed and joked. Lin Kaiyun didn't need any help. He was just teasing Luowen. Luowen didn't react. Lin Kaiyun was joking. He scratched his head and said awkwardly, I was really excited just now, but now it's over. Besides, I was fighting for my life before. Now that you're here, I don't need you." Lin Kaiyun didn't plan to chat with this thick-skinned Luowen anymore. He waved his hand casually and said, "Okay, you are not needed here. Go and see if Dai King Fang has turned into a zombie. If he has, chop him to death with a knife." "Ah! Chop him to death?" Luowen shouted subconsciously after hearing Lin Kaiyun's words, and then as if he had figured something out, he gritted his teeth and nodded fiercely, saying, "Don't worry. Master Lin, although Boss Dai and I have a life and death friendship now, I will definitely not show mercy if he turns into a zombie." After that, Luowen walked towards Dai King Fang with his big knife. Lin Kaiyun walked in front of Ba, held his chin, and looked at him thoughtfully. "You guy, you only have bones and tendons. The bones can't be cut, so the weak point can only be the tendons." Roar. Facing Lin Kaiyun, who was right in front of him, Ba opened his mouth wide, showing his fangs, roaring and threatening, just like a wild dog protecting its food. "Oh, you're quite fierce." Lin Kaiyun was amused by Ba's fierce appearance. He took out the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword from his storage belt without panic, then raised the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword and patted Ba's head, making a bang-bang sound. The sound is quite crisp. It seems that this head is not cooked. "Let's start with your head," Lin Kaiyun muttered, and then his eyes became serious. The 7-star Dragon Abyss sword in his hand slightly tilted, and the blade tilted downward, cutting off the black tendons on Ba's head. Before the black tendons were about to recover, Lin Kaiyun suddenly exerted force, like peeling skin, along the direction of the black tendons, scraped the bones, and removed the black tendons. Roar. Ba struggled painfully, but was trapped by the big net of the 5 Emperor's coins, and did not cause any waves, nor did it cause any trouble to Lin Kaiyun, who was removing the black tendons. After a few minutes, Lin Kaiyun removed all the black tendons on Ba's body along the direction of the body bones. "It's not broken at all. Today is really an extraordinary performance. Usually, I will break the skin of an apple, but today it is so perfect. It seems that I am really a Taoist priest with a craftsman spirit." Lin Kaiyun held the black tendons removed from Ba's body and nodded with satisfaction. Just as Lin Kaiyun thought, The weakness of Ba is precisely these black tendons. There are only two things on Ba's body. One is a human-like skeleton, but as hard as steel. Generally, even the 7-star dragon abyss sword cannot cut it. The other is the black tendons on the skeleton. If the black tendons are no longer a weakness, it will be invincible, which is obviously not in line with the law of natural development of things. Ba, whose black tendons have been removed, has become very listless at this time, and has completely lost its energy and spirit, as if it were dead. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun also found that the color on Ba's body disappeared, and it is estimated that the terrifying defense is gone. At this time, Luowen, who went to check on Dai Qingfang's situation, shouted to Lin Kaiyun, "Master Lin, Boss Dai, my entire arm has become like a zombie, what should I do? Should I cut it now?" Chapter 213, One night. Dai Qingfang was still in a coma, his lips were chapped, his face was getting paler, the red hair on the zombie arm seemed to be alive, like little worms wriggling, the palm connected to the arm had already turned green, and had grown claws like zombies. After squatting down, Luo uncautiously used the big knife in his hand to pick up the sleeve of Dai Qingfang's zombie arm, and found that the zombie arm was still spreading upwards, reaching the shoulder. It's bad, this boss Dai is going to become a zombie. After seeing this situation, Luowen's eyebrows were worried and turned into Sichuan shape. Seeing that the situation was not optimistic, he quickly stood up and shouted to Lin Kaiyun, "Master Lin, Boss Dai's entire arm has mutated, should I cut it off now?" "Don't do it yet, I'll go over and take a look." After hearing Luowen's words, Lin Kaiyun quickly responded to him, fearing that this nervous Luowen would directly cut Dai Qingfang off. Lin Kaiyun folded the black vein in half, held it in his hand, ran quickly to Dai Qingfang's side, lifted his sleeves and took a look, muttering, "It's really spreading. It seems that this zombie arm is not simple. Is it because of the blood or the ghost?" Lin Kaiyun studied Dai Qingfang's zombie arm slowly, while Luowen on the side was very anxious. He squatted down and came to Lin Kaiyun's side, and asked hurriedly, "Master Lin, what should we do? Should we cut it off? You decide quickly, otherwise this boss Dai will become a zombie. What's the hurry? How can he become a zombie so quickly?" Lin Kaiyun glanced at Luowen indifferently, said, and then studied Dai Qingfang's arm. However, this zombie arm is not much different from the previous one. Although it is spreading, after Lin Kaiyun's inspection, he found that it is not a living creature. It is just instinct to suck blood. It's nothing. Keep it for now and observe it slowly. Lin Kaiyun stood up. The best way now is to chop off the whole arm, but Lin Kaiyun doesn't want to do that. There are two reasons. First, Lin Kaiyun is confident that he can find and solve the problem before the zombie arm mutates. Second, Lin Kaiyun really wants to know who the mysterious person who gave Dai Qingfang the zombie arm is. In order to lure out the person behind this, Lin Kaiyun does not intend to move the zombie arm. "Here, wrap this around Dai Qingfang's shoulder, remember to tighten it harder." Lin Kaiyun pointed at Dai Qingfang's shoulder and handed the black tendon in his hand to Luowen. Luowen carefully took the black tendon, put it in front of him and looked at it, then asked in confusion, "Master Lin, this is the tendon of that monster, right? Is this thing useful?" Lin Kaiyun nodded and explained with a smile, "Of course it is useful. The person who tied the bell must be the one who can untie it. And you, a wanderer, should have heard that there must be an antidote within 500 meters of the poison. This is the same reason. It was Ba who awakened this zombie arm, so this tendon must be useful." "Okay." After listening, Luowen responded with a vague understanding, squatted down, spread out the black tendon, and began to fiddle with Dai Qingfang's body. At this time, the light of candlelight appeared around, and it was the village chief who came over with the villagers. Littergo village was not big to begin with, and it was impossible not to hear such a noise when such a thing happened in the village. It was just that they did not dare to step forward because the monster was so lively before. But now it has been solved by Lin Kaiyun, so the village chief rushed over with people. The village chief was wearing a cotton coat, and the haggard expression on his face showed that he had not rested well. He bowed to Lin Kaiyun and asked very politely, "Mr. Lin, is the monster really dead?" "It's basically dead, you just need to burn it," Lin Kaiyun said to the village chief. In fact, Lin Kaiyun could completely eliminate the monster with just a spell, but considering that the people in this village are relatively honest and loyal, Lin Kaiyun decided to help them. After this incident, these ordinary villagers must have had a shadow in their hearts, so Lin Kaiyun decided to let them set fire to the monster themselves. In this way, to a certain extent, these villagers can know that the monster is completely dead, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. After all, what is more impressive than doing it yourself? After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, the village chief told his son Wu Danian, "Danian, go find 2 torches and some cotton, and burn this monster." Soon, Wu Danian took 2 young men from the village, took some old cotton wool, threw it on the body and feet of Ba, and then threw the torch over to ignite the cotton wool. Suddenly, the flames shot up into the sky and wrapped Ba's body. The originally sluggish Ba, after being burned by the flames, let out a heart-wrenching cry. But this cry seemed to accelerate the fire, and soon it was burned to dry bones by the flames, and turned into ashes after the wind blew. "Great, this monster is finally burned to death, thank God, our village is safe, I finally don't have to move." Seeing the monster's figure burned to ashes in the flames, all the villagers felt relieved and relaxed. The village chief was even more relieved, and bowed respectfully to Lin Kaiyun. "Mr. Lin, thank you, thanks to you, otherwise our entire village would have been eaten by this monster. It's okay, it's just a piece of cake." Lin Kaiyun stepped forward and helped the village chief up, then asked, "Village chief, I wonder who planted that withered old willow tree, and who buried the body under the tree?" After hearing Lin Kaiyun's question, the village chief thought about it, shook his head and said, "Old willow tree, I have heard about it from my father for more than 70 years, but I really don't know who planted it, and I don't know that such a monster would be buried under it." "Okay, I know." Lin Kaiyun nodded and said nothing. It was normal for the village chief not to know, and now Lin Kaiyun was not sure whether this willow tree had any direct relationship with Isba. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Lin Kaiyun didn't have to worry about the follow-up work. The village chief took the strong young men in the village to prepare to deal with this matter overnight. It was still dark, and Lin Kaiyun didn't plan to hurry on his journey. However, Li Liuxuan had been bitten to death, and his wife had also died in the mouth of a demon. So it was not suitable to live here now. He could only communicate with the village chief and find them a house to live in. The village chief was very responsible and let Lin Kaiyun and his friends live in his home. "Luoan, go get a few dollars for Zuan, and then carry Dai Qingfang to the village chief's house. We'll deal with them tonight. And then we'll set off tomorrow morning." Chapter 214. Do you think I'm a god? At daybreak, 3 sturdy figures walked steadily on the road leading to the mountains in Liturgao village. They were Lin Kaiyun and his 2 companions. Luoan looked down at Dai Qingfang's zombie arm and asked curiously, "Boss Dai, is your zombie arm really feeling nothing? You don't know that when you were unconscious last night, your zombie arm seemed to be alive, really? But now I really don't have any feeling in this arm." After hearing Luoan's words, Dai Qingfang touched his zombie right arm and shook his head. Last night, before Dai Qingfang fell into coma, he saw Lin Kaiyun's figure. He thought he was dreaming, but he didn't expect that he was not destined to die, and Lin Kaiyun really saved them. But even so, his entire right arm had turned into a zombie, including the fingertips that had grown zombie-like claws. This change still worried Dai Qingfang. After experiencing life and death again last night, Dai Qingfang still felt scared. After waking up in the morning, he also asked Lin Kaiyun if he could cut off the entire right arm. After going through the gates of hell once, Dai Qingfang would probably be willing to cut off an arm or even a leg in order to survive. But Lin Kaiyun told Dai Qingfang that it was best not to move the zombie arm, otherwise no one could predict the consequences. He might die the moment his arm was cut off. There was no other way, so Dai Qingfang could only ask the village chief of Liturgao village for a sheet, wrapped it around his right arm and continued on his way. After what happened last night, Dai Qingfang was more eager for the destination on the map and the so-called life-saving method. When he was on the road, his pace could not help but speed up, and his face was always full of urgency. Lin Kaiyun did not want to waste time. He checked the map before he set off this morning. He was not far from the location marked with a sacred tree, and there would be no more villages or other places on the map. Lin Kaiyun put the map in his arms and said to Dai Qingfang and Luoan, "Let's speed up. Try to get to the marked location before night." "Okay." Dai Qingfang and Luoan naturally had no objections, and they stopped talking and chatting, and hurried on their way quickly. From the time the sun rose in the morning until the sun set, nothing happened in this dense forest. The congested road section mentioned by the head of Liturgao village was just some fallen trees lying across the road. In addition, No one had been walking for a long time, and the rain had hit the road, so the dirt road, which was not very solid, was damaged. However, those fallen trees seemed to be knocked down by huge objects, but Lin Kaiyun did not care, just treating it as something similar to the tiger monster before. Lin Kaiyun and the other two did not even eat anything, and walked until the evening, and finally arrived at the place marked on the map, but their way forward was gone. Lin Kaiyun took a look at the map and the cliff in front of him. After studying it for a while, he said, "There is a cliff here. We should be able to get to it by climbing up from this side." Dai Qingfang raised his head and took a look. The cliff was dozens of meters high. He frowned and asked, "It's so high, how can we get up there?" Lin Kaiyun hugged his shoulders, glanced at Luoan, and said slowly, "Then you have to ask Luoan. He is a mercenary who takes on all kinds of missions. Why does he come to this wild mountain forest without any equipment?" After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang decisively turned his head and looked at Luoan, his eyes full of questions. Luoan shook his head with a wry smile, spread out his hands, and asked Lin Kaiyun, "I didn't bring anything except weapons." "Master Lin, you are so powerful, can't you take us up?" Lin Kaiyun was amused by Luoan. He glanced at Luoan and complained, "Take you up? It takes some trouble for me to climb such a high cliff, and I still want to take you up. Do you think I am a god?" Luoan scratched his head worriedly. "Then what should I do? If it's only 10 or 20 meters, I can still climb so high with my bare hands, but I can't get up that high." Dai Qingfang also looked confused, and obviously he didn't have a better solution. Lin Kaiyun walked up to Luoan, patted his shoulder, and scolded him, "Luoan, you are a mercenary, and you went to this deep mountain forest to carry out a mission, but you didn't even bring some tiger claws and ropes." Luoan immediately explained, and glanced at Dai Qingfang quietly, and said, "Master Lin, we usually follow the employer's route when we go out on a mission. The employer also knows about the mountains and rivers, and will naturally prepare tools to pass through. So we mercenaries only need to protect the employer's safety." After hearing Luoan's words, the flesh on Dai Qingfang's face twitched, and then he looked at Lin Kaiyun apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, Brother Lin, the road conditions are not marked on this map, and I didn't know I would encounter this situation, so I didn't prepare anything." "Okay, since things have come to this point, it seems that you two can't be counted on. It seems that I have to find a way." Lin Kaiyun waved his hand, interrupted Dai Qingfang's words, then walked to the bottom of the cliff and knocked on the stone wall. "The rocks on this cliff are quite hard, enough to support it," Lin Kaiyun muttered softly, pulled out the black tendon from the body of the Ba from his arms, and then took out the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword from his storage belt. He tied one end of the black tendon to the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword, and then held the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword in his hand and gestured to the top of the cliff. Seeing Lin Kaiyun's series of operations, Luoan also guessed what he wanted to do. He walked forward and asked in confusion, "Master Lin, you are not going to use this as a climbing hook, are you? Can it work? Your sword doesn't have a hook. It will definitely not be able to hook the rocks." Lin Kaiyun smiled at Luoan, "Who said I must hook the rocks? Can't I just stick it into the cliff?" After that, Lin Kaiyun did not make any preparations, twisted his wrist and shot the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword directly. Whoosh! The speed of the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword in the air was so fast that it even caused the whistling of the wind. It was like a wild horse running away from its reins, rushing straight to the top of the cliff. Squeak! Bang! The tip of the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword, after touching the cliff surface, was not hindered at all, as if it was cutting tofu, and it went straight in most of the way. Lin Kaiyun pulled the black tendon from below and said, "It's quite stable. I'll go up first and then pull you up." Luoan and Dai Qingfang nodded. "Okay, wait." However, before the two of them could finish their words, Lin Kaiyun grabbed the black tendon, exerted force on his wrist, and used the pulling force to leap up in a few big steps. Chapter 215. Where there is a mountain, there must be a cave, and where there is a cave, there must be treasure. The steep cliff was as flat as the ground under Lin Kaiyun's feet, which made Dai Qingfang and Luoan, who were waiting below, stare at it. "Boss Dai, Master Lin is so capable, why do I feel that he can climb up without any auxiliary tools?" Luoan asked with his head tilted. Seeing Lin Kaiyun's chick movements, he was envious. After hearing Luoan's words, Dai Qingfang stared at the agile Lin Kaiyun and sighed, "Can't you see this? Brother Lin is considering the two of us. If it weren't for the two of us, he would have jumped up by himself." As Dai Qingfang thought, This cliff was not difficult for Lin Kaiyun at all. He climbed up very easily without even breathing. Okay, you two come up. Just follow the route I just stepped on. The rocks are very solid. After Lin Kaiyun climbed to the top of the cliff, he looked around and saw nothing unusual. Then he waved to the bottom. After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan couldn't help but smile bitterly. Their thoughts were surprisingly consistent. Follow your route? With our level, how can we follow your route? Of course, although it is impossible to climb up as casually as Lin Kaiyun, it is still possible to climb slowly. Moreover, Lin Kaiyun has already explored the road conditions for them, so during the climbing process, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan don't have to worry about which rocks will be soft and unsafe. Although the process was rather embarrassing and experienced some twists and turns, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan finally climbed up without any danger. After climbing up, the two were no longer in the mood to observe the surrounding situation. They sat down on the ground tiredly, breathing heavily. Lin Kaiyun stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the two people who were exhausted and panting, and said jokingly, "After all, one of you is a mercenary who has practiced martial arts, and the other has a mutant zombie arm. How can you be so tired after climbing a cliff?" Luoan supported his knees and struggled to stand up, explaining seriously, "Master Lin, you don't know that climbing a cliff is not as simple as rushing. You have to be cautious at all times and keep your nerves tense. How can you not be tired? Can you two stand up? Let's rest while walking. There is a cave over there. If nothing unexpected happens, the sacred tree is inside." Lin Kaiyun was not in the mood to discuss the physical exertion of climbing a cliff with Luoan. He pointed behind him. This cliff is the site of a mountain. After they climbed to the top of the cliff, they were on a downward slope. And looking down the slope, there was a very obvious cave. In the evening when the sun had already set, it looked extremely dark, like a huge mouth that could swallow everything. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan also saw the cave following the finger, but their expressions were completely different. Dai Qingfeng's face was very serious, and his eyes seemed to be able to emit light. He wanted to rush in immediately to find the so-called sacred tree and save his life. Luoan did not feel any excitement at this time. He scratched his head honestly, and then asked Lin Kaiyun, "Master Lin, it's not that I don't believe you, but how can this tree be in the cave? Could it be a mistake? Dare to question me?" Lin Kaiyun glanced at him unhappily and shouted, "You know shit. Where there is a mountain, there must be a cave, and where there is a cave, there must be a treasure." Luoan didn't seem to sense that Lin Kaiyun was a little unhappy, and kept saying, "Is it true? Why haven't I heard this saying before?" Lin Kaiyun's face became increasingly cold in response to Luoan's repeated questioning of him. He turned his face sideways and said slowly, "Because this is what I just thought and said, do you have any objection?" Luoan finally realized that something was wrong at this time. He shrank his neck in fear, waved his hands quickly, and smiled apologetically, No, I was just asking casually." Luoan then remembered Lin Kaiyun's decisiveness in killing the tiger monster and the ba. Although Lin Kaiyun did not behave too cruelly and ruthlessly along the way, it was obvious that the consequences of angering Lin Kaiyun were very serious, and Luoan dared not gamble. At this time, Dai Qingfeng also stood up to smooth things over, and said with a smile, "Brother Lin, don't be angry. Luoan just talked a little, he didn't mean anything else." After all, Luoan did not abandon Dai Qingfeng at the critical moment before, and Dai Qingfeng always remembered this favor. "Humph," Lin Kaiyun snorted coldly, without saying anything else. With a cold face, his hands behind his back, he walked into the cave. These two people are strangers to Lin Kaiyun. If it weren't for the ancient Manchu text on the map, Lin Kaiyun would never pay attention to these two people. He has absolutely done his best along the way, helping whoever he can and helping whoever he can. However, it does not mean that Dai Qingfeng and Luoan can act recklessly in front of Lin Kaiyun, especially when they come to the sacred tree. It is necessary to let them know who has the final say. Looking at Lin Kaiyun's departing figure, thinking about the suddenly angry Lin Kaiyun, Luoan felt a little uneasy. He asked Dai Qingfeng, "Boss Dai, I think Master Lin seems to be quite angry. Will he kill me later?" If they were looking for treasure, then they were standing at the door of the treasure. People's hearts were unpredictable, and Lin Kaiyun seemed to have suddenly changed his temperament, which made Luoan feel a little uneasy. Dai Qingfeng still saw it more clearly. He shook his head and said, "No, Brother Lin knows the route on the map. If he has that idea, he can do it at any time. There is no need to hide it. Besides, If it weren't for Brother Lin's help along the way, the two of us would have died long ago. So as long as you don't say too much and stop talking nonsense, Brother Lin won't care. That's right, let's catch up. Luo thought about it and felt that what Dai Qingfang said was right. He looked up and saw Lin Kaiyun walking away, and hurriedly trotted to catch up. Lin Kaiyun stopped, not because he was waiting for Dai Qingfang and Luo, because he knew with his toes that the two would definitely follow. The reason why he stopped was that after arriving at the edge of the cave, he found that the cave was not formed naturally, but was artificially dug and piled up. At this time, Dai Qingfang and Luo also came to the cave. Looking at the blue bricks at the entrance of the cave, the two were also a little confused. Lin Kaiyun looked at it for a while and muttered, "Isn't this a tomb?" This time Luo learned his lesson and didn't interrupt again, but his eyes were full of doubts. Dai Qingfang on the side reached out and touched the entrance of the cave made of blue bricks, and sighed, "It's very likely. Brother Lin, shall we go in?" "Go in, why not? It's better if it's a tomb. I've long wanted to go to a big tomb and be a tomb raider." Chapter 216 Underground Lake. The entrance of the cave was like a prostrate giant beast, lying quietly in front of Lin Kaiyun and the other two. The entrance of the cave was arched, 3 meters wide and 2 meters high. The inner layer was covered with blue bricks and was also framed with wood to increase the distribution of force. Dai Qingfeng, who was standing by, made a suggestion to Lin Kaiyun for the sake of caution. "Brother Lin, why don't we rest outside at night and go in at dawn tomorrow?" Lin Kaiyun shook his head and refused. "There's no need to wait until daytime to go in. It's still dark inside the cave during the day. Since it's the same, why wait? Go in now." After saying that, Lin Kaiyun looked at Luo, who had been quiet and silent during this period, and asked, "Can you make a torch? Or do you have some lighting equipment?" After being scolded by Lin Kaiyun for talking too much before, Luo stopped talking nonsense during this period. Although Lin Kaiyun did not take action, Luo obviously had some fear of Lin Kaiyun in his heart. Now when he heard Lin Kaiyun's question, Luo's heart skipped a beat, and then he rubbed his hands awkwardly, and said hesitantly, "That, Master Lin, When Lin Kaiyun saw Luo like this, he knew that there must be no fire, so he stopped making things difficult for him. Then Lin Kaiyun took out a few talismans from his arms, held them between his fingertips and shook them, and the talisman paper instantly caught fire. "Let's go. Since there is no fire, let's just use this first, at least it's a little bright." After saying that, Lin Kaiyun pinched the burning talisman paper and walked into the cave first. Dai Qingfang and Luo hurriedly followed. Although the flames of the burning talisman paper were not particularly bright, they were still enough in the small space of the cave. The cave was very humid. All he could see was an artificially excavated arch passage, with a thin layer of blue bricks on the inner layer, and then reinforced with wooden frames. Under his feet were the stones of the mountain itself. There were no traces of footprints on them, but there were a few curve marks that spread all the way to the depths. Dai Qingfang squatted down and looked at the marks carefully, and said in confusion, "Brother Lin, why does this look like the mark of a wooden wheel cart?" Lin Kaiyun also nodded and said slowly, "This should not be a tomb. No one's tomb should be built like this." When Luo heard Lin Kaiyun say that this was not a tomb, he was a little disappointed and muttered, "What is it? Could it be a place where someone else dug a treasure?" Although it might not be the tomb he had been thinking about, it also achieved his dream of a treasure hunt. Who cares what it is? Go in and take a look. Lin Kaiyun quickened his pace. There was nothing unusual about this passage. It was all the same mold, and there was nothing to study. In this cave that went straight down, even with a talisman, the ignited fire was extremely dim. In addition, so far, everything looked the same, so there was no way to know how long they had walked. Even Dai Qingfang and Luo, who were not mentally firm, thought they were lost. "Brother Lin, are we encountering a ghost wall?" Dai Qingfang asked doubtfully, holding his chest in this cave. He felt that his breathing was not smooth. "Don't worry, we can just walk normally. This is all psychological suggestion caused by the environment, not a ghost wall." Lin Kaiyun shook his head and answered Dai Qingfang very affirmatively. Even though Dai Qingfang and Luo were very nervous, they did not dare to raise any rebuttals when they saw that Lin Kaiyun said so, and they followed Lin Kaiyun and continued to move forward. I don't know how long they walked. Several people felt that their foreheads were full of sweat, even Lin Kaiyun. "What's going on? I didn't feel how hot it was. Why did I sweat so much?" Luo wiped his face with both hands, and the sweat stained his hands. and it kept dripping down from his cheeks. Dai Qingfeng on the side. He wiped it on his face, then licked it at the corner of his mouth. His face changed, and he said, "This doesn't seem to be sweat. This is water." Lin Kaiyun nodded, shook his palm in the air, felt the moisture in the air, and slowly said, "Yes, this is water. There is a lot of water vapor in it, there is a lot of water. How can there be a lot of water vapor in this cave? Could it be that there is water in front?" Luoan directly lifted up his clothes, wiped it on his face, and muttered. After hearing Luoan's muttering, Lin Kaiyun smiled and explained, "It's not surprising to have water. If this place was built by people and there are people living here, there must be a water source. Besides, this passage is always downward, and it is normal to have groundwater. Someone lives here? It can't be." Lin Kaiyun said a lot, and Luoan didn't hear it clearly. He only heard that there might be someone in this cave, and he was immediately startled and felt terrified when he thought about it carefully. It was dark and I couldn't see anything. Everything around was the same. If I encountered some monsters, wouldn't I be scared to death? Lin Kaiyun glanced at Luoan and said with a smile, "Even if there are really people, what are you afraid of? Now it's us who broke in. They should be afraid of us, not us. Do you understand? That makes sense." Luoan looked at Lin Kaiyun and grinned. Just as the few people were walking and talking, the scene in front of them finally changed. In front of Lin Kaiyun and the other two, an underground lake appeared. The stereotyped passage ended here. From the rotten pillars, it can be seen that there should have been a floating bridge on the underground lake. However, there is no shadow of the floating bridge at this time. The water flow in this underground lake is not very fast, and it always flows at a slow speed, but the sound of water flowing in this claustrophobic space is very clear. The sound of water flowing across the stone wall is like countless arms beating against the window, which makes people feel trembling in their hearts. Dai Qingfeng was shocked. He kicked the remaining wooden stakes on the floating bridge and asked Lin Kaiyun in a frustrated manner, "Brother Lin, what should we do? Is there no road ahead? We can't see clearly now." Lin Kaiyun has excellent eyesight and no night blindness at night. Normally, the width of this underground lake is not wide enough for Lin Kaiyun to see the other side. But the trouble is that there is some water vapor swirling above this underground lake. The water vapor accumulates and completely blocks Lin Kaiyun's sight, making it impossible for him to see the other side. The sky and the earth are boundless, and the universe borrows the law. Paper Lantern Jiu. Lin Kaiyun took out a piece of talisman paper, folded it repeatedly in his hand, then bit his fingertips and dripped a drop of blood on it. The talisman paper instantly emitted a red light, like a lantern. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Good News and Bad News. Lin Kaiyun put the paper lantern to his mouth, blew a breath, and then stepped out. The paper lantern was like a small boat, floating in the air, flying over, passing through the water vapor and reaching the other side. With the help of the red light of the paper lantern, Lin Kaiyun saw the situation on the other side. There was also an arched passage on the other side, exactly the same as the one they were walking through now. Lin Kaiyun focused his eyes, wanting to see more things with the help of the light of the paper lantern, but he didn't get what he wanted. He said to Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, "There is a road on the other side. It seems that we can only cross this underground lake." Luoan was stunned for a moment after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, then patted himself and said with a wry smile, "Cross the underground lake? We don't have any equipment, can we do it?" Luoan, due to his own personal reasons, could not feel excited by ordinary stimulation, so he always liked exploration and adventure. Even when he encountered Ba before, when his life was in danger, Luoan was not afraid, he only felt his blood boiling. But now Luoan was very upset, because he found that he could not help at all. With such a bad luck, he could not feel excited. It was good enough that he did not cry. Dai Qingfeng walked to the edge of the underground lake, frowned, looked at the underground lake, and said decisively, "This underground lake should not be too deep. I can still go through it if I think about it. After all, this trip to find the so-called sacred tree is the most important for Dai Qingfeng, and it may be related to his life, so Dai Qingfeng must stick to it no matter what." Wait, at this time, Lin Kaiyun suddenly shouted, then waved to Dai Qingfeng and said, "Brother Dai, come back first." After hearing Lin Kaiyun shout, Dai Qingfeng looked at him with a puzzled look. "What's wrong?" Lin Kaiyun did not answer Dai Qingfeng, and repeated what he had just said. "Come back first, I'll tell you." Dai Qingfeng saw Lin Kaiyun like this, and knew that there must be a reason, so he ran back without thinking too much. Dai Qingfeng turned his head to look at the underground lake, and asked speculatively, "Brother Lin, what happened? Is there something in the underground lake?" Lin Kaiyun looked at the underground lake motionlessly, and said slowly, "You really guessed right, but there is nothing in the underground lake, but some ghosts." "What? Ghosts? Master Lin, how can there be ghosts in this underground lake?" After hearing Lin Kaiyun's words, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were stunned and exclaimed at the same time. After hearing the two people's questions, Lin Kaiyun smiled calmly. "Where there are people who die, there will be ghosts. It seems that there are many people who have drowned in this underground lake." As soon as the voice fell, the water vapor above the underground lake actually floated. But how could there be wind in this underground? So the only thing that made the water vapor float was the yin qi. And as the yin qi blew, wet figures emerged from the water vapor. The clothes and appearance of these figures could not be seen clearly, but there were men and women. Of course, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan could not see these. However, when they saw Lin Kaiyun staring at the underground lake without moving, they understood something in an instant. Dai Qingfeng looked at the underground lake, then looked at Lin Kaiyun, and asked curiously, "Brother Lin, are you looking at those ghosts?" "Yes, these ghosts don't seem to have any malicious intent." Lin Kaiyun nodded, then walked towards the underground lake with his hands behind his back. When he reached the edge of the underground lake, Lin Kaiyun took out some simple dry food from his storage belt and threw it on the ground, muttering, "I see that you have no resentment. Why don't you go to the underworld to reincarnate?" Seeing that these ghosts had no intention of attacking, Lin Kaiyun became polite in a rare way. At the same time, he also knew that the ghosts in the underground lake were far away from the human world and had not seen many people. I think they had never enjoyed sacrifices, so he threw down some dry food as a gift. Sure enough, after throwing the dry food down, a water ghost floated over in the water vapor, raised his hand to grab the dry food, but stopped at the lakeside, shaking his head as if looking at Lin Kaiyun. "Sorry, blame me, I forgot that you, a junior water ghost, can't leave the water." Seeing this scene, Lin Kaiyun patted his forehead, smiled awkwardly, then picked up the dry food and threw it directly into the water, and continued to ask, "You should be able to understand what I'm saying. Why don't you go reincarnate?" Still staying in this underground lake, the water ghost really understood what Lin Kaiyun said, and used the ghost's consciousness to convey a message to Lin Kaiyun. "I can't leave this water, my master won't let us leave," and before, the ghost messenger from the underworld came to escort us, but they were all driven away by the master. After conveying the message to Lin Kaiyun, the water ghost grabbed the dry food that Lin Kaiyun threw into the water, and inhaled the smell of the dry food with great enjoyment. Ghosts cannot eat human food, they can only eat the smell of sacrifices or food, which is what is called ghost food. After Lin Kaiyun received the information from the water ghost, he frowned and asked in confusion, "Master, who is your master? Is he also in this underground lake?" The water ghost who absorbed the dry food left by Lin Kaiyun was very happy to answer Lin Kaiyun's question. "Yes, our master is also in this big lake, but we can't see the master's appearance." After hearing this information, Lin Kaiyun's expression was a little ugly. Their master is probably an extremely powerful water ghost. Moreover, water ghosts are proficient in water, and they are even more powerful in water, and their combat power doubles. Of course, the most important thing is that Lin Kaiyun is not proficient in water, and his abilities and skills are not very useful in water, so if he really fights with water ghosts in the water, he will obviously not have an advantage. But if they want to continue moving forward, they must wade through this underground lake. If they are attacked by the powerful water ghost when they enter the lake, they will become passive ducks. At this time, Dai Qingfeng mustered up his courage and walked to Lin Kaiyun's side without fear of ghosts. He asked in confusion, "Brother Lin, what's wrong? Were you talking to a ghost just now? Did you find out anything?" Luoan saw Dai Qingfeng walking over, and he was too embarrassed to hide behind him. He walked to Lin Kaiyun's side and waited for Lin Kaiyun's answer with the same curiosity. Lin Kaiyun glanced at him. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan did not keep him in suspense and replied directly, "Yes, I just asked these ghosts. There's bad news and good news. The good news is that these ghosts are kind and have no grudges and will not attack us. But the bad news is that there is an even more powerful water ghost in this underground lake, and it is very likely to attack us when we cross the river. Chapter 218. What do you mean by asking me to bring it out? Hearing Lin Kaiyun's good news and bad news, Dai Qingfang fell into deep thought. The scene fell into silence for a while. Lin Kaiyun hugged his shoulders and looked at the underground lake. He didn't have any extra thoughts in his heart. Luoan was the same. He didn't have any special thoughts. He had already made a decision in his heart. As long as Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfang were ready to cross the river, he would follow them. As for whether it was dangerous or not, he would talk about it later. Dai Qingfang was quite flustered at this time. Listening to what Lin Kaiyun meant, the things in the underground lake were not easy to deal with. If that was the case, it was very likely that he would not be able to get to the other side. In that case, his zombie arm could not be cured, and he would fall into a state of chronic death, and he might even become an ugly zombie, living a life worse than death. So Dai Qingfang already had the answer in his mind. He looked at Lin Kaiyun with an extremely firm look in his eyes and asked, "Brother Lin, if the powerful water ghost you mentioned can't be dealt with in the water, then if we lead it ashore, can you solve it?" Lin Kaiyun nodded and said with a smile, "Of course, if it is on the shore, the powerful water ghost will be much easier to deal with than the bar we will meet at night. Okay, Brother Lin, you have been very kind along the way. Without you, we would definitely not have arrived here. So leave the responsibility of leading the water ghost ashore to us." After Lin Kaiyun finished speaking, Dai Qingfang suddenly bowed to Lin Kaiyun and thanked him very sincerely. Then Dai Qingfang turned around, stared at Luoan, and said very seriously, "Luoan, next it is our task to lead the powerful water ghost ashore." Luoan patted his chest. He didn't help at all along the way. Now it is finally his time to show his ability. He asked excitedly, "No problem. I've been feeling very uncomfortable along the way. Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Dai Qingfang nodded to Luoan with great appreciation. He raised his hand and patted his shoulder, and said seriously, "Okay, you go and lure it ashore." "What?" Luoan was grinning, but after hearing Dai Qingfang's words, he was suddenly stunned. He thought he had heard it wrong. He stared at Dai Qingfang with confused eyes and muttered in confusion, "What do you mean you want me to lure it ashore?" Dai Qingfang looked at Luoan seriously, his hand still on Luoan's shoulder, and talked about his plan. "That is to say, you jump into the river, and then lure out the powerful water ghost that Brother Lin mentioned, and then you run to the shore and try to lure the water ghost ashore again." When Luoan heard Dai Qingfang's so-called plan, he pushed away Dai Qingfang's hand on his shoulder with disgust, pointed to the underground lake, and retorted righteously, "Boss Dai, although I like adventure and feel very excited, it does not mean that I will go and die. Besides, why don't you go?" Dai Qingfang was not surprised by Luoan's attitude, as if he had expected it, and explained patiently, "Luoan, it's not that I'm not loyal. Look at me now, and my zombie arm has spread to my shoulder. What if I get bewitched or controlled by a water ghost in the water and completely turn into a zombie? My life doesn't matter, but if I turn into a zombie and become a team with a water ghost, wouldn't that cause trouble for Brother Lin?" After hearing Dai Qingfang's explanation, Luoan shook his head in confusion. Although he knew that Dai Qingfang's words were off topic, it seemed to be the case. Luoan nodded, ready to take the initiative to seduce the water ghost, and said, "That's right, you almost turned into a zombie last night. If you turn into a zombie later, won't we have one more opponent?" Dai Qingfang knew that Luoan agreed when he saw this statement, and then he cupped his hands and said very generously, "Luoan, good brother, don't worry, the two of us outside will be ready to take action at any time and will not let you fall into danger." Haha. Lin Kaiyun couldn't help laughing when he heard the plan of Dai Qingfang and Luoan. Before, Dai Qingfang behaved very sensibly, thanked Lin Kaiyun, and took the initiative to take the task, which made Lin Kaiyun mistakenly think that Dai Qingfang was at the critical moment of life and death and was going to fight. Unexpectedly, he threw this task to Luoan again, and at the same time, the reason he said was full of confidence, and it sounded a bit reasonable at first glance. Lin Kaiyun's laughter was very obvious in this claustrophobic and narrow cave, and instantly attracted the attention of Dai Qingfang and Luoan. Dai Qingfang naturally knew why Lin Kaiyun was laughing, so he had to interrupt before Luoan could react. So Dai Qingfang naturally put his arm around Luoan's shoulders, patted Luoan's chest like a close friend, and said, "Luoan, look, Brother Lin is also infected by your fearless spirit." After being interrupted by Dai Qingfang, Luoan also ignored Lin Kaiyun's laughter before, gritted his teeth and nodded, as if he was swearing, "Well, don't worry. It happens that I can swim, and I will definitely be able to complete this glorious and arduous task." Luoan has admired the spirit of adventure and chivalry since he was a child. Although he entered the mercenary business, he has always been very loyal and willing to take the initiative to undertake some dangerous tasks. Of course, this is also related to his quirk of being difficult to get excited, but the flaws do not outweigh the merits. Luoan is definitely not a good person. He has done some unjust things, but Luoan is definitely a person who is suitable to do things together. However, Lin Kaiyun would not choose to favor one person because of this. Anyway, in Lin Kaiyun's mind, it is indeed the best way to lure out the master mentioned by the water ghost. As for whether Dai Qingfang or Luoan will lure him out, he doesn't care. After seeing that Lin Kaiyun did not object, Dai Qingfang was relieved. Then he pulled up his zombie arm with the highest combat power, raised it up and showed it, and said to Luoan with a smile, "Brother Luoan, you go. We are ready here at any time, no problem. I'll put the knife here. It won't be used in the water. You should be alert and be ready to shoot at any time." Luoan nodded, put his big knife on the ground, and took out some hidden weapons in his arms. After all, these are not applicable in water, and heavy objects in water will affect his speed and flexibility. After taking off all the extra things, Luoan jumped directly into the underground lake without any hesitation. Chapter 219, Urinating and Defecating in the Lake. Luoan was very brave, and he dived into the underground lake. Lin Kaiyun could see that the water ghosts, both men and women, did not show any fierceness after Luoan jumped into the underground lake, but instead hid away in fear. Luoan, after diving into the water, swam easily for a while and then jumped out of the water, stretched out his hand to wipe the water off his face, nodded to Lin Kaiyun and the others, looked around, and shouted, "Come on. Are you a water ghost or some demon? Come out quickly. Grandpa has come to the water to find you. Why are you still shy?" Luoan's voice was very loud, and in this closed space, there was a constant echo, as if there were many Luoan shouting at the same time. This voice seemed to be very demonic, at least it made people feel very uncomfortable, and Lin Kaiyun also blocked his ears in disgust. Not only Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfang felt that this voice was very irritating, but even the water ghosts in the water hide away in fear. Of course, these water ghosts may not think the noise is noisy, but they are shocked by Luoan's momentum. Lin Jiu once told Lin Kaiyun that people are 3 parts afraid of ghosts, while ghosts are 7 parts afraid of people, especially ordinary water ghosts like these who have no grievances. It is inevitable to be afraid after being scolded by a young person like Luoan. After repeated echoes, the sound gradually weakened and disappeared, but the lake was still very calm. Except for the splashes of water splashed by Luoan, there was no reaction. Luoan originally thought that after he shouted, the powerful water ghost would definitely appear. His nerves were very tense, ready to run to the shore at any time, but there was no reaction. Luoan shook his head and looked around, then stopped his gaze on the 2 people on the shore and asked, "Master Lin, Boss Dai, is it because you are too obvious on the shore? Do you want to hide? Hide, look at where we can hide in this environment." After hearing Luoan's suggestion, Lin Kaiyun shrugged his shoulders and pointed to the passage that was several kilometers behind him. There was no place to hide. Then Lin Kaiyun continued, "Since we can't hide, we won't hide. Generally, powerful ghosts are very proud. Besides, you 2 are ordinary people, and my breath is not very obvious, so the owners of those water ghosts will not be afraid or alert at all. Even if they realize that there is an ambush, they will not take it to heart." In other words, Lin Kaiyun's words meant that he hid his breath, and Dai Qingfang and Luoan were completely useless, so naturally they would not be taken seriously by some powerful ghosts. Although it was hurtful, the reason was clear, so Luoan also agreed with this statement. Luoan in the underground lake took a long breath, and lay down on his back. He swam on his back very wantonly, spitting water from his mouth, and shouted even louder, "What's the matter? Grandson, you didn't come out to say hello when you saw your grandfather in the water. Are you really scared? I have never seen such a cowardly ghost like you. Learn from the Ba that my father met last night. He had no arms, but he was still rampaging. You don't even dare to show up in your own territory." Luoan seemed to treat this underground lake as a small bathtub in his house, swimming and swam to his heart's content, but the underground lake still did not respond. "Damn it, you coward still dare not come out. Don't blame Grandpa, I'm not polite, Luoan cursed, then turned his back to Lin Kaiyun and the others, put his hands in the water, unzipped his pants, and urinated in this underground lake. Because they were facing away, although they couldn't see Luoan's movements clearly, Lin Kaiyun and Da Qingfeng saw bubbles and a stream of yellow water coming out of the underground lake, and they knew that Luoan was not only urinating, but also farting casually. Seeing this scene, Lin Kaiyun couldn't help but praise Luoan in his heart. It must be said that Luoan was the most suitable person to seduce and anger the master of the water ghost in the water. If Da Qingfeng went down, he would definitely not be able to do this. Just as Lin Kaiyun was sighing, in the center of the underground lake, under the slowly flowing lake water, a very large shadow suddenly appeared. This huge figure was like a huge fish, with an extremely black tail that jumped out of the water. The tail was as big as a jeep, and the moment it appeared, it seemed as if the entire underground lake was separated. Bang! The fish tail fell on the water surface, and instantly set off a huge wave, hitting Luoan. Save me, Luoan hurriedly asked for help. In this critical moment, the adrenaline in his body exploded to the extreme, and the whole person felt very excited. This was an unprecedented feeling for him, and it was also the feeling he had been pursuing, but it did not mean that he had lost his mind. At this time, Luoan was still very clear that his life was important. Luoan did not have time to see what appeared, and swam desperately towards the shore, but the huge wave hit him and made him temporarily lose his direction. However, Luoan still gritted his teeth and held his breath in the water for a while, and continued to swim towards the shore. The huge black shadow in the underground lake raised its tail again, not just a huge wave, but formed a wave. At the same time, the water vapor above the underground lake also flowed rapidly, and a fishy smell spread from the water. Under the interference of the waves, Luoan struggled to swim, but he could not move forward at all. At the same time, his physical strength was rapidly declining, and he could also feel that there seemed to be water plants under the water, and something like that was entangled with his feet. In fact, it was the water ghosts who did it. Although these water ghosts had no ill will towards Lin Kaiyun and the other two before, and Luoan did not react when he went into the water, the owner of the water ghost appeared at this time, and it was obvious that he had issued an order. Luoan felt that his body was gradually sinking and his body temperature was also dropping. He raised his head desperately, exposed his mouth to the water, and shouted, "Master Lin, help me, I can't swim." Seeing that Luoan might die at any time in the water, Da Qingfeng was also a little anxious. Although he had tricked Luoan into going down to lure out the owner of the water ghost, Da Qingfeng did not want Luoan to die, so he looked at Lin Kaiyun and asked, "Brother Lin, Luoan seems to be dying, please save him quickly." Lin Kaiyun nodded and took out a black tendon of Ba and threw it directly into the underground lake. The black tendon seemed to be a long snake, and it was thrown accurately in front of Luoan's eyes. Luoan relied on his instinct and grabbed the black tendon thrown by Lin Kaiyun with both hands. Lin Kaiyun grabbed the other end, wrapped it around his hand, and with a sudden force, pulled Luoan directly out of the water. Chapter 220 suffered a loss. Luoan's body, which was trapped in the waves, was suddenly pulled up by Lin Kaiyun. He shouted in surprise in the air, but his face was excited because he was saved. But how could the huge black shadow in the underground lake let Luoan go so easily? The fish tail, as big as a house, swept around in the underground lake, and the water level of the entire underground lake rose by 5 centimeters. The lake water even exceeded the shore and flowed into the channels on both sides. The backflowing water had already flooded the feet of Lin Kaiyun and Da Qingfeng, but the overflowing water did not rise anymore. It seemed that the things in the water were not capable of doing this. However, the attack was still on the lake surface, and Luoan above was enough. The waves continued to roll up the lake water, and all kinds of strange fish and shrimps in it were beaten out one after another. They were used as hidden weapons in the air and attacked Luoan. Heaven and Earth Zuanzong, the root of all Qi, cultivate 10,000 calamities, and correct my supernatural powers. Internal energy protects the body, external energy attacks the enemy. Lin Kaiyun's eyes flashed with brilliance, and his left hand tightly grasped the black tendons of Ba, pulling Luoan to the shore. At the same time, his right hand flashed with golden flames, swinging in the air, like pulling a big rope in the gym in Lin Kaiyun's hand. The golden flame shot out like a waterfall, forming a barrier around Luoan, blocking all the fish, shrimps and sea creatures that were like hidden weapons. Luoan saw that at the critical moment, Lin Kaiyun finally made a move, and at the same time helped him block all the attacks. He danced in the air excitedly. Great, Master Lin. Lin Kaiyun also took this opportunity to use his wrist to drag Luoan to the shore. Because Lin Kaiyun suddenly exerted force, Luoan's whole body was like a kite, drawing a semicircle in the air, and fell from the top of Lin Kaiyun and Da Qingfeng's head to the back. Luoan's body was out of control and he fell behind two people. In order to reduce his pain, he chose to bend his body into an arc and land. But this posture, combined with the strength, instantly formed a rolling force, like a ball, and actually rolled a long way upwards. If the national treasure panda rolled like this, it would be very cute, but Luoan's rolling would only make people feel embarrassed. Luoan rolled for a long time, lying on the aisle with his arms and legs spread out. He was knocked unconscious and his whole body was covered with bruises. Even Luoan, who had thick skin and flesh, had blood oozing from the corners of his mouth after such a fall, but compared to surviving, these injuries were not important. Luoan patted his head to make himself as clear as possible, then struggled to stand up, staggered to Lin Kaiyun's side and thanked him sincerely. Master Lin, thank you for saving my life. I am not well educated and don't know what to say. How about this? When I return alive this time, I will massage your waist and back. Hearing Luoan's words, Lin Kaiyun glanced at him and said with disdain, massage your waist and back. Can't I use a beautiful woman? Do I have to use you? Luoan scratched his head awkwardly and grinned. That's true, then I'll bring you tea and water. Luoan also realized that his massage of waist and back seemed to be of no use, and then changed his words. But Lin Kaiyun did not respond to him. Because at this time all the waves in the underground lake gradually subsided. Of course, this does not mean that the monster below has run away. On the contrary, this is the calm before the storm. A whirlpool formed in the center of the underground lake, and a huge black fish rushed out along the whirlpool, as if standing on the water surface, and exhaled heavily towards Lin Kaiyun and the other two. The master mentioned in the previous message of the water ghost was not a more powerful water ghost, but a fish monster. This huge fish was pitch black, with hideous scales all over its body. Two round eyes protruded from it, emitting a green and ferocious light, and a fishy smell came out of its mouth. However, this huge black fish only stared at Lin Kaiyun and the other two fiercely, and did not run to the shore to attack them as Lin Kaiyun thought. Da Qingfeng was very nervous. Looking at this huge black fish, his zombie arms were completely exposed, and the claws on his palms twitched slightly. It can be seen that the whole person was very tense. Da Qingfeng saw that the black fish was not fooled, so he asked, Brother Lin, what should we do? This ugly big fish doesn't seem to be fooled. It seems that this monster is very cautious, Lin Kaiyun said with a sneer, then hugged his shoulders and took a few steps closer to the shore, with his front paws already on the water. Lin Kaiyun stared at the black fish coldly, without the slightest fear, and cursed, What's wrong with you, this ugly mutant fish? Are you afraid to go ashore? Lin Kaiyun didn't want to provoke him, he just wanted to anger the black fish, and it would be best if the black fish would attack him regardless of anything. After all, this black fish is a natural monster in the water. In addition to its huge size and the ability to bind water ghosts, it must have some skills. Lin Kaiyun really had no idea how to deal with this monster in the water. This ugly fish monster seemed to understand Lin Kaiyun's words, flapping its tail to cause huge waves to hide it. Of course, this attack would not cause any harm to Lin Kaiyun. Lin Kaiyun's palm slid gently in front of him, and a golden flame appeared out of thin air, separating the huge waves that were hitting him and scattering them on both sides, splashing countless water droplets, making the passage seem like it was raining. However, the fish monster did not attack again, but stayed at a relatively safe distance, with its fins on both sides as thick as trees, waving slowly, and its fierce eyes staring at Lin Kaiyun and the other two, full of greed. This look clearly wanted to eat Lin Kaiyun and the other two, but this fish monster actually held back. Although the monsters in the water can only exert their power when they are in the water, and their strength will be greatly reduced once they come ashore, the monster's ferocity cannot be contained at all, and they will not consider so much. You must know that although ordinary monsters have a certain degree of wisdom, the animality and demonic nature in their bodies still dominate, and they usually do not think rationally unless they have really suffered a loss. However, Lin Kaiyun had just had a face-to-face encounter with this fish monster and had not launched any attack, so this loss definitely had nothing to do with Lin Kaiyun. In other words, it was very likely that someone had been here before and beat up this black fish. Chapter 221 It's my turn, don't move. Although this fish monster may have suffered losses from humans, it is a monster with profound Taoism after all, and this underground lake is its territory. It can be cautious, but it cannot fall behind. In response to Lin Kaiyun's provocation, the fish monster was both cautious and angry. It opened its mouth wide, revealing the sharp teeth on its upper and lower jaws. The teeth were sparse and long, unlike the dense and fine teeth of fish, but rather like those of wild beasts on land. Seeing the teeth of the fish monster, Lin Kaiyun's face was full of ridicule. He raised his finger and pointed at the fish monster in front of him and cursed, "Okay, I didn't expect you to look so weird. Maybe you are a hybrid." Such simple and direct words, even if the fish monster is intelligent, will not understand the meaning, but Lin Kaiyun's pointing gesture made the fish monster feel insulted. The fish monster exhaled angrily, as if snoring, and at the same time, its body kept flapping in the water, splashing water for a while. The splashing water was just to attract the attention of Lin Kaiyun and others, and the real attack was in the mouth of the fish monster. The fish monster closed its mouth, its long teeth clenched together, and a column of water rose from the waves, gathering in front of the fish monster. Its tree-like fin slapped violently, and the column of water shot towards Lin Kaiyun. The speed of the water column was very fast, and Lin Kaiyun was indeed attracted by the waves of the fish monster before, so he could not cast the golden light spell to resist for a while, and could only instinctively dodge sideways. Bang! The water column almost stuck to Lin Kaiyun's forehead, shot over, and hit the wooden frame of the passage behind. The wooden frame tightly attached to the blue bricks was pierced by the water column, and the blue bricks on the surface were also blown to pieces. Dai Qingfeng and Luowen both turned their heads around at the same time, and were stunned by the water column attack of the fish monster. They couldn't help but sigh, how can this water column be so powerful? Lin Kaiyun was also surprised, and squinted his eyes and slowly said, it seems that this ugly monster has been practicing for a long time. However, the fish monster seemed not to want to give Lin Kaiyun time to adjust, and condensed another water column and shot it at Lin Kaiyun. This time, the fish monster obviously adjusted its attack, and aimed at Lin Kaiyun's face at a faster speed, not giving Lin Kaiyun any time to react. Everyone has seen the power of the previous water column attack. If you are hit by this water column, there is no need to think about it, your head will definitely be smashed. Brother Lin, get out of the way. Dai Qingfeng, who was standing aside, saw that Lin Kaiyun did not dodge or avoid, and suddenly felt very anxious. He quickly grabbed Lin Kaiyun's arm and wanted to pull him aside. However, Lin Kaiyun stood there like a sculpture, and Dai Qingfeng couldn't move at all. Because Lin Kaiyun didn't want to dodge at all, Dai Qingfeng saw that he couldn't pull Lin Kaiyun, and he didn't care so much, holding his head and turning to the side, and Luowen obviously didn't want to either, so he accompanied Lin Kaiyun and hid behind the wooden shelf early. Just when Dai Qingfeng thought that Lin Kaiyun would be hit by this water column and blood would splash, a scene that shocked them appeared. The water column that easily penetrated the blue bricks before was only a millimeter away from Lin Kaiyun's face. Suddenly, a golden flame rose in front of Lin Kaiyun, which was exactly the same as the flame released by Lin Kaiyun when he saved Luowen. This golden flame was like a barrier, blocking the powerful water column, and it turned into an ordinary splash in an instant, falling down and soaking Lin Kaiyun's trouser legs. Luowen opened his mouth in surprise, gave Lin Kaiyun a thumbs up, and muttered, Master Lin is worthy of being Master Lin, so powerful. Dai Qingfeng also smiled bitterly and shook his head. I am naive. With Brother Lin's ability, we don't have to worry at all. Although the two were surprised, they were not surprised. However, the fish monster in the water actually showed a surprised look in its bulging green eyes, which was very human. Are you surprised or scared? What's wrong? You panicked because it can't block your attack. Lin Kaiyun looked at the fish monster and sneered and mocked. He knew very well that this fish monster could understand human language. You were the one attacking before, so it's my turn now, even if it's a turn-based system. Lin Kaiyun raised his left and right hands, and a crackling lightning appeared in his hands. Then Lin Kaiyun casually slid down, and the lightning swung out an arc in the air, and stopped in Lin Kaiyun's hands like a bow and arrow. Lin Kaiyun's thunder method had long been mastered, and the thunder moved as his heart moved, and it was no problem for him to transform into bow and arrow. Then Lin Kaiyun raised his left hand, and an arrow flashing with lightning was placed on the bow. Lin Kaiyun narrowed his eyes slightly, aimed the bow and arrow at the fish monster, and said, Don't move, I didn't dodge when you attacked me before, and you can do the same now. The fish monster did understand what Lin Kaiyun said, but it was not a fool. At least facing Lin Kaiyun's attack, the fish monster could not resist without injury. Lin Kaiyun's bow and arrow followed the direction where the fish monster slipped away, aiming and shaking, and at the same time predicting the fish monster's movement. Don't move, I'm going to shoot. Lin Kaiyun pulled the bow and arrow in his hand into full moon, and as soon as his fingers loosened, the arrow flashing with lightning shot out instantly. Whoosh! The lightning arrow made a sonic boom in the air, and shot in the direction of the fish monster with terrifying momentum. The fish monster realized the danger and swam desperately to the center of the underground lake, trying to dive into the deep water. With a sound of puff, the arrow flashing with lightning shot into the water first, and just collided with the fish monster that was escaping and diving into the water, and accurately shot the protruding eyes of the fish monster. Suddenly, a piece of green dirty blood flowed out and dyed the waters of the underground lake green. Squeak! The fish monster screamed in pain. This was the first time it made a sound. Obviously, the attack of the lightning arrow made it very painful, or the eyes that were attacked were the weakest and most vital part of the fish monster. Lin Kaiyun was also a little surprised. He had only predicted the fish monster's escape route and had not anticipated where he would hit. Unexpectedly, by coincidence, he hit the protruding eye. However, this was exactly what Lin Kaiyun wanted. The pair of green evil eyes made Lin Kaiyun feel very uncomfortable. In addition, if the eyes were injured, it would definitely affect the fish monster's vision. Chapter 222 You won't run away, will you? Squeak! The fish monster screamed in pain and kept tumbling in the center of the lake, trying to get rid of the lightning arrow shot into its eyes by blocking the water flow. But this was not an ordinary arrow, but one that Lin Kaiyun transformed with lightning. So the moment the fish monster got the arrow out of its eyes, it turned into a series of tiny electric currents and conducted through the water's surface. In an instant, the rolling waves around the fish monster turned into an electric water area, and an electric roasted black fish came. This tiny current plus the conductivity of water continued to cause damage to the fish monster. Squeak! The fish monster screamed, as if it had lost its ability to move, floating on the lake, obviously paralyzed by the electric current. Of course, Lin Kaiyun would not miss this opportunity, and raised his hand and a lightning arrow appeared on the bow and arrow again. However, the fish monster suddenly turned over like a carp, and jumped up half a meter high, and then plunged into the underground lake. So fast, was it pretending to be dead before? Lin Kaiyun was startled by the agile movement of the fish monster, but he still quickly shot the arrow in his hand. However, after the fish monster dived into the water, it disappeared directly from Lin Kaiyun's sight like a meteor. The lightning arrow hit the surface of the lake, and the current and water splashes made a crackling sound, but it was just a lonely shock. The fish monster had already run away without a trace. After all, it is a monster in the water. It runs away so fast. Lin Kaiyun sighed softly, feeling a little helpless. After all, he was not proficient in water, and there were not many ways to deal with a monster in the water. However, this was already expected by Lin Kaiyun, so his expression did not change at all. At this time, Dai Qingfang and Luoan saw that the ugly monster was beaten away by Lin Kaiyun, and they also walked to the shore boldly. Looking at the remaining ripples on the surface of the underground lake, Dai Qingfang asked with mixed emotions, "Brother Lin, is this strange fish the owner that those ghosts mentioned before?" Lin Kaiyun nodded, raised his foot and kicked the small stone in front of him into the lake, and said calmly, "Yes, this fish monster should be the owner of those water ghosts. You also saw that this underground lake should be the lair of this monster, and this monster is not low in Taoism. You also saw the water column it spit out before. It is very powerful. I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult for us to get over it." After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang's face was confused. After a brief loss of consciousness, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Well, there's nothing I can do. It seems that this is fate. I have such a disaster in my life." Dai Qingfang on the side squinted and stared at the passage opposite for a while, then tilted his head to Lin Kaiyun and said, "Master Lin, I'm not being nosy. I see that the weird-looking fish monster was chased away by you in just a few moves. And I estimate that we are only 50 meters away from the other side. It should be no problem for us to pass quickly, right?" There was nothing wrong with Luoan's idea, but it was obviously impossible to realize. Lin Kaiyun glanced at Luoan and said, You are just being nosy. Although the fish monster has run away now, it is because it may have suffered losses from humans before. And the lightning I used can cause certain damage to it, so the fish monster chose to escape temporarily. However, judging from the cautious character of this kind of monster and the pair of eyes that reveal a fierce aura, it is definitely hiding at the bottom of the lake, looking for a chance to attack us. Luoan understood what Lin Kaiyun said, but he was still unwilling to give up. He had come to this point, climbing mountains and wading through water all the way, but was blocked by an ugly monster fish. This made Luoan very aggrieved, and he said helplessly, "What should we do? We have come this far, can we only leave aggrievedly?" Of course, it was not just Luoan who had this feeling. Lin Kaiyun also had this feeling. This matter had nothing to do with him. It was because of a line of ancient Manchu characters on the map that aroused his interest. As a result, the answer was already within reach, but it was blocked by a fish monster in the underground lake. This was even more difficult for the somewhat proud Lin Kaiyun to accept. Who said we are leaving? This fish monster can only show off its power in this water, but does that mean I can't deal with it? Lin Kaiyun hugged his shoulders, looked coldly at the underground lake, and his words were full of disdain. Originally, Dai Qingfeng, who was ready to give up, had a face full of disappointment, but after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, his face changed instantly, and he asked expectantly, "Really? Brother Lin, do you really have a way?" Lin Kaiyun nodded, turned around, walked upwards, no longer staring at the underground lake, and said, "There's a way, but not now, we have to wait until dawn." Luoan was stunned for a moment when he heard Lin Kaiyun's words. He didn't understand what he meant. He scratched his beard and muttered, "Dawn? We are in this cave, what difference does it make whether it is dawn or not? Shut up, why don't you learn from it?" "You start to interrupt again." Dai Qingfeng on the side quickly elbowed Luoan and scolded him. After Dai Qingfeng's reminder, Luoan remembered the fear of being dominated by Lin Kaiyun before, and quickly covered his mouth. Of course Lin Kaiyun would not pay any attention to this guy Luoan. He walked up for a while, found a place that was not wet by the water, sat down against a blue brick wall, then pointed at Luoan and said, "Luoan, you go up now, find some grass fluff at the outside of the cave, we will sleep here tonight, and at the same time grab some soil and sprinkle it along the way, be careful not to break any places." After hearing Lin Kaiyun's instructions, Luoan immediately had a sad face and muttered softly, "The cave entrance is so far away, how long will it take to get there?" Although he complained, Luoan did not dare to disobey Lin Kaiyun's wishes. He carried his big knife and walked up with a sad face. Lin Kaiyun leaned sideways, looked at Luoan swaying back, and reminded him with a smile, "By the way, you won't feel that this place is very dangerous after you get out of the cave, and then prepare to run away, right? But I can remind you that if you really run away, even if you escape hundreds or thousands of miles away, I can still find you, but at that time, I will have to treat you well." Hearing Lin Kaiyun's threatening words, Luoan felt a chill on his back. He turned around quickly, looked at Lin Kaiyun and patted his chest very sincerely, and assured, "Master Lin, don't worry. Although I am not very useful, I will definitely not run away." Chapter 223 Metaphysical Fishing. Luoan followed Lin Kaiyun's instructions very obediently, walked outside the cave, picked some leaves from the surrounding yellow branches, and dug some soil with his machete, spreading it inside the passage along the way. It was very far from the cave entrance to this passage, so Luoan seemed a little flustered alone. Finally, Lin Kaiyun asked Dai Qingfeng to go over to help. Even with two people, it took a long time to spread this oil from the cave entrance to the shore of the underground lake. During this period, Lin Kaiyun had no intention of helping at all. It was not that he was unkind, but that he had done his best to help along the way. He was the one who took care of all the difficult things. If Lin Kaiyun still did these small things, wouldn't he become a follower? Of course, Lin Kaiyun still had important things to do now. He spread a black tendon shaved from Ba's body on the ground, and then took out the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword from his storage belt. He held the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword against one end of the black tendon, slowly sharpened it into a point, and then sharpened it thinner and thinner, like a thin line. Then Lin Kaiyun tied the other end of the black tendon that had not been sharpened to the hilt of the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword. Lin Kaiyun stood up holding the thing he had developed, looked at it with appreciation, and nodded with satisfaction. "Not bad, it's a bit like a fish hook. I'm really a little genius." After boasting, Lin Kaiyun took out some dry food from his arms, walked to the shore of the underground lake, dipped the dry food in water to soften it, pinched it on the end of the black tendon that had been sharpened into a thin line, and then went down into the underground lake. He sat on the shore, closed his eyes and rested, and started fishing. After a while, Dai Qingfang and Luoan came back panting. They were clean when they left, but they were covered in dust when they came back. Both of them were covered in mud on their bodies and hands. Although Dai Qingfang and Luoan were working together, Luoan was the absolute main force. He not only moved the soil, but also dug it. He was so tired that he couldn't even say a complete sentence. He sat down on the piled leaves and took a rest. Dai Qingfang was much stronger than Luoan. He saw Lin Kaiyun sitting on the shore and approached curiously. Lin Kaiyun put his feet under his buttocks, sat on the shore with a frail look, closed his eyes, and held a sword in his hand, tied with black tendons and hanging in the water. Dai Qingfang asked with a puzzled look on his face, "Brother Lin, what are you doing?" Lin Kaiyun had known that Dai Qingfang was coming, but he did not open his eyes or make any reaction. Only after Dai Qingfang asked the question did Lin Kaiyun slowly open his eyes, with the demeanor of a master who had retired to the mountains, and slowly said, "Well, can't you see? I'm fishing." Dai Qingfang smiled when he heard Lin Kaiyun's tone, and sat on the shore and chatted with Lin Kaiyun. "I can see that you are fishing, but I have never seen your way of fishing, and will your tendons work? You don't understand this. Although none of mine are standard in terms of fishing tools, I am fishing in the metaphysics of fishing, which is the same principle as Yang Taigong's fishing, and those who are willing to take the bait will be caught. What's more, the tendons of the bar have a bloody smell. So maybe you can get twice the result with half the effort." Lin Kaiyun no longer held his voice, and returned to his normal tone, telling Dai Qingfang the mystery of it. After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang nodded affirmatively, and then smiled and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Brother Lin, if someone else said this to me, I would definitely sneer and refute it fiercely, but if you say this to me, I believe it. You have good vision. You believe me. Look, it's coming." After that, Lin Kaiyun raised his arm, exerted force on his wrist, and the 7-star dragon abyss sword drove the black tendons to pull violently, and a fish was thrown directly onto the shore. "Brother Lin, I am really convinced. If I can be rescued successfully this time, I will go back to drink and brag to others. You are absolutely unique in fishing with the sword and the tendons of that monster." Dai Qingfang gave Lin Kaiyun a thumbs up, and then stood up to check the fish. The fish thrown ashore by Lin Kaiyun was full of energy and kept flopping on the shore. This fish was also pitch black and had scales on its body. It was simply a smaller version of the huge fish monster before. Dai Qingfang was a little surprised after seeing it, and hurriedly called out to Lin Kaiyun, "Brother Lin, why does this fish look like the monster before? It's not from the same tribe, right?" After hearing what Dai Qingfang said, Lin Kaiyun glanced at the fish tumbling on the ground and said with a smile, "That's great, I'll eat it. I'll fish for a while longer, and it would be best if I could eat all the descendants of that fish monster." Then Lin Kaiyun sat on the shore again, threw the black tendon into the water, and shouted into the water, "Did you hear me? Don't hide. If you don't come out, I'll attack your tribe." Lin Kaiyun's words were of course right. The fish monster said that, although he couldn't see the location of the fish monster, Lin Kaiyun was very sure that the fish monster had been observing them and was ready to find an opportunity to sneak attack at any time. However, Lin Kaiyun's mocking shouting did not have any effect. The fish monster seemed to have really disappeared, without any movement, as if it deliberately let Lin Kaiyun and his companions take it lightly. However, Lin Kaiyun did not take it too seriously. He continued to fish persistently. It didn't take too long for him to catch more than 10 fish. Dai Qingfang and Luoan built a fire and started roasting them. Seeing that the fish they caught were almost enough for 3 people, Lin Kaiyun put away the 7-star dragon abyss sword, walked to the side of Dai Qingfang and Luoan, picked up a cooked roasted fish, and ate it with relish. Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 had a big meal. Seeing that the underground lake was still calm, they chose to ignore it. Each found a comfortable place, closed their eyes and rested. Originally, they were very anxious to travel today. Lin Kaiyun had planned to find the location marked on the map overnight, but he didn't expect to encounter a road-blocking fish in this cave. Since it has come to this, he might as well take a good rest and sleep. Dai Qingfang stood up after resting for a while and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Brother Lin, you two go to sleep. I'll stand here to keep watch for you." Otherwise it will be too dangerous if that monster suddenly attacks." Lin Kaiyun said casually without opening his eyes. "What are you telling us? We want that fish monster to attack us by surprise. It would be great if we can get it to run to the shore and attack us by surprise." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 Underestimating This Monster. After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang immediately understood Lin Kaiyun's intention, and then stopped talking, returned to his position, and rested. With Lin Kaiyun's words, everyone relaxed their vigilance, and they were very tired during the day, so they fell asleep quickly, and Luoan even snored directly. Lin Kaiyun also fell asleep, but he still maintained the good habit of being alert whenever he slept outside. In this cave, there is not much difference between night and day, both are pitch black, but the comfort is much worse than outside. Because it is close to the underground lake, and the water that the fish monster had stirred before, the place where Lin Kaiyun and the other two rested was very humid, but they still slept soundly. Lin Kaiyun and the other two slept soundly, and the fish monster in the underground lake also noticed it. Soon, ripples appeared in the calm underground lake, and the water ripples spread out one by one. A huge forehead with scales floated up, revealing two bulging eyes, but one of them had an obvious blood hole, and the green eyes had lost their luster, obviously losing their vision. However, the other eye still had a fierce look, staring at Lin Kaiyun and the other two. Just when the fish monster thought it had floated up quietly, Lin Kaiyun, who had been sleeping, moved his eyeballs, obviously having noticed it, but the fish monster didn't know and still attacked. The fish monster wanted to attack by surprise, so it was very careful. Its fish mouth, which exuded a foul smell, took a sip of water, and then its entire head floated out of the water and spit out the water at lightning speed. Whoosh! The water arrow went straight to Lin Kaiyun. The fish monster was intelligent and naturally knew that Lin Kaiyun was the most powerful one among them. As long as Lin Kaiyun was solved, the other two would be its meal. However, when the water arrow was about to hit Lin Kaiyun, just like before, a golden flame rose beside Lin Kaiyun, like a barrier, blocking the water arrow. Lin Kaiyun stopped pretending, opened his eyes and sat up, pointed at Luoan who was snoring, and cursed, "You monster are really cowardly, we are all like this, look at that guy over there who is still snoring, why don't you come ashore? You are really embarrassing the monster." When the fish monster saw Lin Kaiyun like this, he knew that he was deceived, and he was no longer cautious, opening his mouth and breathing out the fishy smell, while the thick fins on both sides, like trees, slapped on the water surface and stirred up two water columns. This time, the fish monster did not choose to attack Lin Kaiyun again, but aimed at Dai Qingfang and Luoan who were still sleeping. The fish monster now realized that his water arrow attack would not work on Lin Kaiyun, so it might as well attack others. Facing the attack of the fish monster's water arrow, Dai Qingfang and Luoan were completely unaware and were still snoring. "You two are such pigs," Lin Kaiyun cursed with a smile, then clapped his hands, and two golden flames appeared in front of Dai Qingfang and Luoan, blocking the water arrows of the fish monster and turning into ordinary water streams, splashing on the faces of Dai Qingfang and Luoan. "What's wrong? What happened? Is it that the monster came out again?" After being splashed with water, Dai Qingfang and Luoan jumped up and looked around nervously. Lin Kaiyun saw the confused expressions of Dai Qingfang and Luoan, stretched out his hand to make an image, and said with a smile, "You two dared to wake up? You were so scared before that you hid directly. The water column almost hit your face." Hearing Lin Kaiyun's mocking words, combined with the water on their faces, Dai Qingfang and Luoan could imagine what had just happened, and they were also scared. Squeak! At this time, the fish monster floating in the underground lake roared at Lin Kaiyun and the other two, and then sank directly into the water without any hesitation. Seeing that the fish monster ran away so decisively, Lin Kaiyun shook his head with regret and muttered to himself, "Is this thing like this in nature, or has its wisdom reached a certain level?" The reason why Lin Kaiyun had this question was not that the fish monster ran away so decisively, which he did not find too strange. But what surprised Lin Kaiyun the most was that the fish monster only attacked twice, and after seeing that the attack did not work, it stopped making useless attacks. You must know that this way of thinking is very common in humans, And it can even be said bluntly that even fools know it, but in the body of monsters, in addition to the sense of smell for fighting, they also need to have enough thinking wisdom. Obviously, this ugly-looking, ferocious-eyed fish monster has this side. Dai Qingfeng was much more awake at this time. He looked at the underground lake and asked in confusion, "Brother Lin, this fish monster didn't come ashore to attack when we were all asleep." Lin Kaiyun smiled at Dai Qingfeng, spread his hands and said, "Strange, right? I'm surprised too. I didn't expect that the wisdom of this fish monster is much higher than we imagined." Dai Qingfeng nodded. He also felt that this fish monster was much smarter than he imagined. Compared with the tiger monster he encountered in the land temple before, this fish monster seemed too smart. As soon as he thought about it, the opponent will not be fooled easily, and Dai Qingfeng's face showed some bitterness. "Does that mean that we have no way to get to the other side?" Lin Kaiyun looked at the worried Dai Qingfeng, smiled and shook his head. "Didn't I tell you before? I have a way." Luoan on the side also looked at Dai Qingfeng with a bitter face, and interrupted, "Yes, Boss Dai, are you scared and confused by the escape from death just now? Master Lin said before that he had a way to deal with it, and asked us to go out and sprinkle dirt on the passage. Isn't it for this?" After hearing Luoan's reminder, Dai Qingfeng realized that he was thinking too extreme. He raised his hand and patted his head, and said to Lin Kaiyun apologetically, "I'm sorry, Brother Lin, I'm confused. I didn't think it through just now, and I got stuck in a dead end." Lin Kaiyun waved at Dai Qingfeng with a calm expression and said in a calm tone, "Nothing, no need to apologize. This fish monster is planning to ambush us in the water. I have my own way. We'll know the outcome tomorrow. But if tomorrow's method doesn't work, then we may have to return empty-handed." Chapter 225. Do you still know how to pray to the gods? Lin Kaiyun and the other two did not change places to rest, but still stayed not far from the underground lake. After all, for Lin Kaiyun, he wished that the fish monster could not help but come ashore. Of course, he was just thinking about it, because this ugly fish monster could not be called vigilant at all, and it could be said that it was too cautious. In fact, as Lin Kaiyun thought, this fish monster had not appeared since the last attack. The surface of the underground lake was as calm as a mirror, without a single ripple. Lin Kaiyun ignored it and fell asleep on his own. Instead, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan suffered from insomnia. They did sleep very soundly before, but they knew that the fish monster would attack at any time. Even though Lin Kaiyun repeatedly told them that there was nothing wrong, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan still did not dare to relax. In this way, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were like two door gods, on the left and right of Lin Kaiyun, sleepy to death, but still holding on, not daring to close their eyes. A few hours later, Lin Kaiyun opened his eyes, raised his arms comfortably, and stretched his body. Then Lin Kaiyun saw Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, with dark circles under their eyes like pandas, leaning against a blue bricks, with a look of despair on their faces. "What's wrong with you two? Didn't you sleep all night?" Lin Kaiyun stood up, twisted his waist, moved his body, and looked at Dai Qingfeng and Luoan curiously. Dai Qingfeng leaned against the wall, forced his eyes open, smiled bitterly at Lin Kaiyun, and said slowly, "Brother Lin, we were really worried that the fish monster would attack again last night, so we didn't rest and were just taking precautions." And Luoan on the side was very honest. He kept yawning and said to Lin Kaiyun in a complaining tone, "Master Lin, you fell asleep. How dare we sleep? What if that ugly monster attacks again? You are not afraid, but we can't stop it. I told you, that fish monster is very timid, it will never come again, but if you don't believe me, there is nothing I can do." After hearing Luoan's words, Lin Kaiyun smiled and spread his hands, but he knew in his heart that what Luoan said was indeed somewhat reasonable. Although Lin Kaiyun would still remain vigilant when he was asleep, if the fish monster attacked again, Lin Kaiyun only needed to react a little slower, or make a little mistake. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan would probably be shot in the head by the fish monster's water column. "Okay, now that it's daybreak, take a short nap and relax. We'll have tasks for you to do later," Lin Kaiyun said to Dai Qingfeng and Luoan. Dai Qingfeng nodded, no longer trying to hold on, and lay down on the leaves and fell asleep, muttering in a daze, "Okay, Brother Lin, if you need us, just call me anytime." Luoan saw that Dai Qingfeng had also laid down, so he also fell to the ground and fell asleep. Lin Kaiyun ignored Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, walked up a distance along the passage, and found a clean place. Then, Lin Kaiyun looked at the blue bricks on the passage, reached out and touched them gently, as if he was picking something in a shopping mall. "Well, it's you." Lin Kaiyun tapped a dry and neat blue brick with his fingers, and then took it out from his storage belt. The 7-star dragon abyss sword was inserted into the gap of the blue brick, and he very skillfully cleaned the cement joints at the edge of the blue brick. Then he knocked it with a half fist, and easily pried out the blue brick. After that, Lin Kaiyun repeated the previous action, prying off more than a dozen blue bricks continuously. Lin Kaiyun laid these blue bricks on the ground and built a stone table more than half a meter high. "Almost done. I haven't done it yet. I don't know if it's rusty." Lin Kaiyun looked at the table he built with satisfaction, and then took out a set of brushes, inkstones, paper and inkstones from his storage belt. This brush is not Lin Jiu's wolf hair brush, but an ordinary brush that can't be more ordinary. The pen holder has been polished to shine. Obviously it has been used for many years, but the hair of the brush head is very soft, as if it is brand new. This brush was given to him by Lin Kaiyun's master Lin Jiu. According to Lin Jiu, this brush was once used by his master and was specially used to invite gods. After countless times of drawing talismans, this brush has already possessed a hint of divinity, so it will be twice as effective with half the effort. Lin Kaiyun placed this somewhat worn-out brush diagonally on the stone inkstone, and then pressed a yellowed white paper underneath. Lin Kaiyun's hands continued to move as he took out an incense burner, inserted a few incense sticks and some simple dry food on it. That's right, these pieces of dry food can be regarded as sacrifices. There is no way to analyze the specific situation. There are no cow heads or pig heads here now, so we can only take a few pieces of dry food to support it. After all these preparations are completed, we need to pick an hour. These rituals of inviting gods must be performed on the hour. At this time, Dai Qingfeng opened his eyes. After a period of rest, his mental state was adjusted a lot. He saw these things suddenly appeared in front of Lin Kaiyun, and asked in surprise, "Brother Lin, where did you get this stone table and the things on it?" Lin Kaiyun glanced at Dai Qingfeng and said slowly, "Where did it come from? Do you need to ask? I must have brought it myself. Could it be conjured up?" Lin Kaiyun originally thought that Dai Qingfeng knew that he had storage props or equipment or means, but it turned out that Dai Qingfeng really didn't know. In the past, when Lin Kaiyun took some small objects out of thin air, he regarded it as Lin Kaiyun's Taoism, but suddenly there were so many things, which shocked him very much. Dai Qingfeng stood up and walked to the stone table. Looking at the incense burner, ink, paper and inkstone on it, he asked in confusion, "Brother Lin, are you going to perform a sacrifice? Or do you think the scenery here is nice and want to recite poems and paint?" "Brother Dai, it's pitch black here. Apart from this blue brick passage, there is only an underground lake in front of you. Can you say that the scenery is nice?" Lin Kaiyun smiled and shook his head, then explained, "The fish monsters in the water are so hidden, I personally have no way to deal with them, so I need a helper now." Dai Qingfeng reacted after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, and then shouted in surprise, "Helper? Are you asking for gods?" Lin Kaiyun was a little surprised that Dai Qingfeng knew that he was going to ask for gods. "Sure, you know how to ask for gods." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.